Honestly, Sam, if I could just get this sentence out. We can talk about Jimmy Dore can go and kill 15 kids tomorrow, and I still believe in force the vote. Honestly, Sam, if I could just... Honestly, Sam, if I could just get this sentence out. We can talk about Jimmy Dore can go and kill 15 kids tomorrow, and I still believe in force the vote.
Alleged meeting with the Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese, a real beautiful company.
They're not accountable to anyone. They're not to anyone. I get 10 to 12 million views a month, and they won't come out and address my progressive audience. They won't come out and address Brie's audience, or Katie's audience, or Justin Jackson, or you. They are not accountable to us. They're accountable to whoever the fuck themselves. Let's not kid ourselves. As Chris Hedges taught us a long time ago, the people attracted to politics are the most mediocre of people. They're not your friends. They are elected servants. And start fucking treating them that way.
I hear Brownie is seconding you in the background.
They're not your fucking friends. They're the people standing in between us and fucking healthcare. They're putting their fucking personal position ahead of that. Don't fucking forget that. I'm talking about anybody who's a progressive in Congress who isn't endorsing hashtag the vote. All those motherfuckers who didn't show up today at our town hall. Every fucking one of them is selling you out and canceling you for their own personal gain.
Antifa exists. And he's like this, and we will, I need water, help me, I need water, help. And he's right, this is on live television.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
And by the way, I don't think that's some grand conspiracy. I think this is sort of what power is. I mean this at a sort of high level.
$7 million for reef fish management. $25 million to combat Asian carp. $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico. Running against the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics puts pressure on me. Can you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Jeff.
Honestly, Sam, if I could just get this sentence out. We can talk about Jimmy Dore can go and kill 15 kids tomorrow, and I still believe in force the vote.
Dumb people, liberal people.
Is this thing on? Holy shit. Holy fuck. Is this thing on? Is this podcast? Like, is this a podcast? What's happening? Holy shit. Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It All. I come to you in different clothing, because I took a shower. I've got something in my pocket. It is a receipt. I've got a receipt in my pocket. All right, so, this is part 2 of me watching the very aptly named Bad Faith debate between Brianna Joy Gray and one Samuel Lincoln Seder, and including but not limited with a one Oklahoma Virgil or whatever his name is. I don't know. I was trying to make a joke there, but I forgot the state is his last name. Anyway, so I am Andrea. I will be your host. I will be hosting myself, watching other people hosting other people yelling at each other. That's basically what this is. And so if you want to watch the first half of this, go watch last night's show. I streamed the first hour and 25 minutes and 50 seconds last night, and I plan on continuing tonight. So yeah, hopefully everyone's having a good night. I'm so used to being late. I tried to watch in 1.5x. Hey, it happens. Hello, Fun Police. Hello, the lead striker. Welcome. Hello, classical anti-fascista. Hello, Sheriff. Hello, Jenna Nix. Hello, J.O. Billiard Dilliard. Hello, Q. Incy Smith. Hello, R. Reeker. Resser. Hello, Home. Hello, Owit Shunt. Hello, Bernard Sanders. Welcome to the chat. Hello, Sarah Darklaw. Hello, Bob. Hello, Alex. Hello, Rix. Hello, Ian. And also hello to Dusty and Katie, who were here like 2 hours ago. Like, they were waiting the whole time, so hopefully they didn't pass out and die. Anyway, hello, Tokyo Goida. Hello, Robert Wilson. Hello, the Fitzinator. All right, y'all. So, welcome to the stream. Again, if you're here for the first time, I watched the first half of this debate yesterday. So if you want to watch this and then watch the other one later afterward or whatever, or vice versa, feel free. Let's get into it, shall we? This is like a big disaster. This whole thing is a disaster. If you, just a real quick recap of the last 24 hours, Jimmy Dore uploaded a video of himself talking to a right-wing white supremacist militia member, and then basically that member was like, I'm not personally racist, like all my friends are racist, but personally I'm not racist, so that makes it okay. So it's like, all right. And then Jimmy Dore was like, sure, whatever. Jimmy Dore called this guy an anarchist, even though this guy doesn't even know what anarchism is. Jimmy Dore is also like 50-something years old and doesn't know what anarchism is. They're just dumb as shit. I covered Jimmy Dore's dumbass video this morning. And basically all day on Twitter, Samuel Lincoln Seder was going after two Brianna Joy Gray. And Brianna Joy Gray ended up deleting a bunch of tweets. She kept trying to say that Sam was abusing her in the debates and how, like, you know, speaking over black women voices, and then kept deleting the tweets. I don't know, really bizarre stuff going on in Brianna Joy Gray's headspace right now. And I want to say that I think it's all planned. It's a conspiracy theory, I'll admit. I'm conspiring against her. But it's all planned. She is a trained media operative. She was a corporate lawyer. She has had access to hundreds of thousands of dollars. She probably has a bank account with hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine. I mean, look at her background. It's extravagant. Her podcast makes nearly $40,000 per month, not per year. You know, a lot of people make $40,000 in a year, and that's like really good. Like, they're super lucky. Brianna Joy Gray, she splits with her crew $40,000 a month-ish. It's around 35. And so we know that she is rich and she has no skin in the game. So this whole idea that she wants to force the vote on Medicare for all, even though it's not going to do anything, it's clear that she has no skin in the game. And it's also clear that she's a trained media operative. Now, we can be led to believe that she's had these meltdowns on accident, that she's just unstable. I personally believe that this is all part of the plan in an effort to get Sam Seder in a situation, try to bully him and harass him and lie about him, and then that just works. So again, Brianna Joy Gray today, and she tweeted out this video of, again, I covered this last night. So I said, when Sam Seder was talking about the speakership vote and saying that, Kevin McCarthy would be elected speaker at some point, theoretically, Virgil and Brie shut him down and stopped him from talking, and then basically talked over him, and then made that a clip. In fact, I'm just going to go find the tweet if it's still there, because I think it is very egregious and disgusting, the way that they're just lying about him. And now, again, I disagree with Sam Seder on a lot of stuff. I disagree with Sam Seder on a multitude of stuff. There is just you could probably not even quantify the amount of things that I disagree with Sam Seder on. And I still like him way more than Brianna Joy Gray, because I understand that you can disagree with someone without committing character assassination against them. So here is the clip here.
The majority is not the majority of holdouts.
So again, Sam Seder is talking about this.
But if they, maybe other people vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
So
but if
Yeah.
People for Hakeem Jeffries.
So they cut him off. Blah, blah, blah. I covered this yesterday. But let's look at this. So Brianna Joy Gray says it was a sincere pleasure, blah, 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 blah. We've clipped highlights for those who missed it over on Bad Faith's YouTube page. So we've clipped highlights, right? Is when they clip themselves speaking over Sam Seder. And yeah, Sam Seder should have maybe been a little bit more eloquent, but in Sam Seder's mind, he was going to make a larger and broader point about how this strategy would play out. And they just kind of cut him off and then said, oh, you didn't finish your point, therefore your point is bad. Well, the point wasn't finished, so what? So they're like going on Twitter all day today, and they've been lying about this. So I was like, okay. And that just gives me way better auspices. Now, again, we could just look at her Twitter page just real quick. It's here. We can just look at her page. She's just talking about into Sam Seder the whole day. She's deleted like I think 4 or 5 tweets so far. Sam Seder spent months arguing against the merits of a plan, all while not understanding the basic mechanics of it. So again, so Sam Seder was trying to play out the force the vote thing. Brianna Joy Gray interrupted him because again, she's a trained media operative. She knew, oh, if I just interrupt Sam Seder right now, I'll be able to clip that out of context, and then no one's going to watch the full debate. They'll see that clip, and then they'll agree with me. That's what she did, and that's what she's been doing all day today. So I might just clip this and make this a separate segment as well. But again, she is lying to you. You are being misled and lied to. She is not melting down because of emotional instability. She is melting down for optical persuasion against people that just really, to be honest, are not that bright. That's the Jimmy Dore crowd. They're not that bright. They're just dumb motherfuckers. That's what they are. And Brianna Joy Gray thinks it's a lot easier to get a crowd of dumb motherfuckers watching her show because that's going to give her more money than it would be to get a crowd of Sam Seder people who actually like reading to watch her show, because her show doesn't have that much substance to it. So again, what are you going to do? You're going to have Sam Seder on your show. You're going to interrupt him every other 5 seconds, and then you're going to clip that out of context and say, oh, look how dumb Sam is. He doesn't even understand something. And you're going to go on Twitter and get thousands of retweets. That's what you're going to do. It was rank negligence, and I did him a kindness by not drilling him on how irresponsible he's been in our program. You did him a kindness by not drilling him about what? Like, you're doing that right now, Brie. You're doing that right now. Like, again, selective editing is all of this stuff. It's all selective editing. That's what this is. So, again, you can just look at all this crap. It's a bunch of dumb bullshit. So, again, if you want to watch me watch the first hour and a half of this debate, you can go back and watch yesterday's stream. I think it was technically above it all 1096. I've been numbering these as well. So go back and check that out. And I will get to this shortly, but I'm going to read the chat comments first. So, yeah, let me write something down for my brain later. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. I disagree with the concept of Sam Seder. Same. I gather Brie's been on a tweet delete spree today. Yeah, she's tweet deleted several times. She tried to convince people that she couldn't afford healthcare a couple months ago. That's extremely hilarious. Sam Seder is a lib, but he's a good faith actor and a decent person. Yeah, I mean, again, I would rather ally with liberals than white supremacist fascists who want to kill transgender people. So Jimmy Dore is out there saying we need to unify with white supremacists that want to kill transgender people. Sam Seder is out there saying, like, hey, I'm like 50 years old and I don't really understand communism that well. Right? One is like, but I like it. You know, I like the idea of it or whatever. Like, you know, one is clearly preferable to the other. So like I said, I have a multitude of disagreements with Sam Seder. But I have never in my, like, I watched a lot of his content. I have never doubted that he said something because he really believes it. Whereas like Jimmy Dore clearly only says things for money. Brianna Joy Gray clearly only says things for money. So Sam Seder does not say things for money. And that's what I appreciate about him. So I just wanted to be very clear. I like Sam Seder's show. But again, we're allowed to disagree with each other. That's perfectly fine. Sam went into the podcast bad faith and good faith and got steamrolled. That's correct. That's exactly what happened. Elizabeth, did you hear Sam said that he didn't even know they were going to be debating? He thought it was going to be a conversation about what lesson they can learn. Yep. Exactly. I didn't watch today's Majority Report because I was doing my own stuff, but exactly. Don't do that loud shit, please. I'm sorry, I don't know what loud shit you're talking about. Honestly, I don't think there's any more need to cover this debate after the mess she's pulled on Twitter. Zero PE, which I'm going to put into my headcanon, stands for Pain Elemental, which is a monster from Doom 2, my favorite game. There is no reason for me to watch this debate other than 1, viewers, 2, it's honestly fun, it's entertaining, and then 3, super chats. Those are the only reasons why I'm doing this stream. But at least I'm honest, like Brianna Joy Gray is not going to tell you that, oh yeah, the only reason I got Sam Seder on my show is for super chats. She's not going to tell you that. You're kidding me. She would never ever say that the only reason she did a 3-hour debate with Sam Seder and questioned him about his dead best friend was for super chats. She would never think of saying that because that's, for her, that would ruin her brand. For me, I'm just being honest. I don't have a brand. I'm just telling you how it is. So that's why I'm streaming here. Brie and Jimmy are making bank. What's poppin', Paul? I agree. They are, in fact, making bank. I'm making bank on YouTube. I get 100 viewers a stream sometimes if I'm lucky. I am making considerably more money than I have ever dreamed of making. The money I made in December right now is about 30% of the money I've made in January so far. And January's not even over. So I'm making a lot of money. And again, thank you to everyone. Sincerely, I really do appreciate it. And I'm not trying to sound ungrateful. I'm just, I'm an honest person. So if I'm making enough money to support myself, and Jimmy Dore just bought a $2 million house, and Jimmy Dore gets fucking 5,000 times my viewers, and has been on YouTube a lot longer than me, it's not a hard calculation. Please do not lean into the mic like that. There are better ways to show emphasis. Oh, like what? Like this? Like this? I'm so sorry. I mean, you could tell me to fuck off. I'm sorry if I'm a very eccentric person and I like to jump around a lot, so I apologize. I'm not trying to blow anyone's eardrums out. I'm really not. I'm just kind of a piece of shit. Sam Seder doesn't identify as anything politically. Sam Seder is an idea. Sam Seder is not a person. He is something bigger. Agreed. That is absolutely correct. I like the idea of Sam Seder. Brianna Joy Gray is in it for the clicks, while Sam expected a good faith conversation. Shameful. Again, exactly. I know how to play the game a little bit. I've never received training. I've never been a corporate lawyer. I've never had parents give me hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I've been on YouTube for a couple of years now, right? I understand how to play media games. You're telling me someone who's gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars and is getting hundreds of thousands of dollars per year on her podcast, who is a quote unquote self-described communications expert. She's a self-described comms person. You're telling me she doesn't know what she's doing? Come on. Is Sam a liberal? Maybe. I don't know. He doesn't really have an identity, and that's, I think, a good thing. Personally, I describe myself as an anarchist, but I can respect someone who doesn't describe themselves as anything, because I understand. whatever. XOXO Nout Chan _ Hi, I just found your show. The content on Bad Faith really was good. Best takedown I've seen of her because you got in the sticks. Keep it up. I don't know what the sticks are. I'm not much of a stick user, but I appreciate that. Sam pays hookers to queef in his face. That would not surprise me. I know Sam's probably had a rough time ever since he got divorced, so that would not surprise me. That's the difference between Sam and BJG. He'll admit when he doesn't know or doesn't have all the answers. BJG claims she knows all the answers or everything. She uses snake oil for money. Exactly. Remember, last night, Brianna Joy Gray kept saying, it's not about Jimmy Dore. Also, it was his idea. Brianna Joy Gray kept saying, it's only about Medicare for all and nothing else, but also it's about everything else. Brianna Joy Gray kept flip-flopping from position to position to position to position. I counted it at least 4 or 5 times, and you can go back and watch yesterday's archive if you want, right? But I counted at least 4 or 5 times where she flip-flopped on the same issue within an hour and a half. And I'm probably going to count even more in tonight's, iteration here. But my point is she lies for money. That's my point. And hey, I've lied for money. I know how it's done, right? I've had people tell me to do stupid stuff. I know all about this shit. But the only thing is, I'm going to tell you about that. Brie is not. So, Sam is intelligent. The same can't be said for Dory. He's a freaking moron. Brianna has the grossest fake smile life. Yeah, her fake smile is almost as bad as Biden. Again, she's been trained. It's a media trained thing. Hey, Nick. There's a media training of whenever you are, upset, they tell you, oh, smile. Because that disarms people. That's what Brie does. Again, you can tell that she is well trained in media. You can tell. Now, I don't know who trained her. I don't know if it was just a neutral training job to tell her how to be a communications expert and she's using that for nefarious and narcissistic purposes. I'm not trying to say that like Russia sent her here. I'm not trying to say that stupid shit. It could be true though. I mean, it could be true that Russia sent her. I don't know, but I'm not going out there to die on that hill. All I know is that she is well versed in the media space and is using that to her advantage and no one else's. That's what I know. Salmon is an idea. That is the perfect way to describe it. You deserve it. Great content. I do think I deserve it. I don't know, but maybe. I'm willing to die on the mic volume hill. It's possibly painful to pets and humans if volume shifts that much and I'm stupid as hell and leave my volume too high. No, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I am wrong and I will try to work on that. But again, I'm in a new space right now and I'm in a swivel chair. I normally don't have a swivel chair. I got to get one of these at home, right? Like, I'm just capable of, like, just swiveling. By the way, I got new pants. I don't know if these are visible. They've got stars on them. There's planets everywhere. This shit's popping. So I should probably start the show, right? Like, Jesus Christ. Anarchist like a boogaloo? No, like a bogaloo. Or a boglaloo or whatever. Remember when Jimmy Dore made his dumb tweet, he couldn't spell Boogaloo Boy correctly? Like, he was way off. It's like, yeah, I know, I just told everyone these guys are cool, and then I just did a 40-minute interview saying that they're cool. But how do you spell their name again? Okay. Hello, Devin May Cry. I feel like all the worst stuff is in the second half. It's going to be rough. Oh, it's going to be rough. Yeah, this is going to be bad. I haven't smoked weed today, but I'm considering doing so during this if I need to. But we'll see. This time it'll be different and people will rise up because instead of having the likable Bernie, we have Nazi adjacent Jimmy Dore. Yep. All right. Did I join the Space Force? Yes. Yes, I did. I have joined the Space Force, as you can see. I'm in space. Yes. I love your planet pants. Me too. Thank you. Thank you. Start the show or we riot. Okay.
Ditch Donald Trump, and he found out he couldn't, and which is why there's been this sort of like dramatic shift. He found out after those 11 Republican congresspeople got nailed.
So again, this is bad faith. Now I cut this out yesterday. I stopped here, but I want to reiterate here what she's doing. AOC tweeted this out, and Jimmy Dore and Brie have been misinterpreting this as like, oh, but you could have said this about forced to vote. And yeah, you could have, but the calculations are different. The context surrounding these things are completely different, right? So, and then Sam reads this tweet because Sam is a good person, and he's also not way too online. This guy's got a life. He's got kids or whatever. But like, so he doesn't know that Jimmy Dore and Brie and all these weirdo motherfuckers have been using this tweet as like some sort of like gotcha. So Sam sees that tweet pop on the screen and he reads it in good faith and is like, I agree with some of it. I disagree with some of it. It's a decent tweet in some parts and that kind of stuff. And I guarantee you, now I haven't watched from this point onward, right? But I guarantee you Brie is going to try to gotcha this guy. This is what I said last night. So
for voting for impeachment. And so I think this is one of those times where you're creating a wedge. But I don't think that the Medicare for All thing creates a wedge that is in any way helpful. Like I don't see how it's builds on it. I mean, we have a good sense. Look, if you think there's about a pool of 120 Democrats who would vote against Medicare for All, you and I could sit down in a couple of days and come up with a list of 40 that should be primaried. I mean, there are organizations that have assessed, like, what's the...
Well, if there are 120, then it would be a list of 120.
Well, but I mean, do we have the resources to challenge 120? I mean, that's the question.
I don't want to gotcha you, but how much of a wedge has impeachment been? Because I remember coming on your program at the beginning of last year, and we had, or I think at the end of 2019, we had a conversation about impeachment. And you and I both supported impeachment because, we guys support criminal, even if it's not going to work, fine, whatever, just do it. It's the least bad option for this Congress to do, because obviously with Trump as president, McConnell as majority leader, it's not like you're going to do anything.
Ian Kinzel, $5. I'm going to go buy a $5 box. Just kidding. YouTube takes 75%. Brianna Joy Gray isn't a bad faith actor. She's just caught in a multiverse, traveling between multiple dimensions where she's taken different positions. That's really funny. Thank you for the money as well. I'm only laughing at that because I got paid too.
Great, right then. So you might as well expose criminality to the Republican Party. And you thought at the time that impeachment is going to be this wedge issue that's going to destroy Susan Collins in Maine. It's going to destroy these swing state senators. And we watched that happen in North Carolina, Maine. These like prime plum targets.
I agree.
Did not go that way. And it's. I mean, it is surprising. Considering the partisan lead, they did take the Senate. But considering the partisan lead of a state like Maine.
No, I agree. But I mean, look, it did not. It wasn't.
I just want to say, in fact, I want to say nothing. I'm going to keep
so much that it was going to be a wedge, that it was going to be you were going to tie people to Donald Trump. You were going to tie these lawmakers to Donald Trump, and that was going to sink them. And
it didn't hurt them. Well, it didn't hurt Burr. It didn't hurt Collins.
I agree. It should have hurt them. I think it was not the.
Now, I just want to say I've been watching Sam Seder show for maybe 3 years or so. And I do remember him talking about the impeachment and how it would drive a wedge between Republicans. Now, that was under the assumption that the Democrats would talk about it. Like, that's the idea, is the Democratic Party is uniquely horrendous. It's just really bad, right? So, like, the people that went up against these swing state people, they barely talked about it. And now, I know Virgil Texas doesn't live in North Carolina. I know he doesn't know much about North Carolina. But at least in our situation, Cal Cunningham was polling way up against Tom Tillis up until he had a sex scandal. I know, right? I didn't think it would matter, but I said, I think I covered it, and I said it possibly could sink him, but I really hope it doesn't. I was being optimistic, but he did have a sex scandal in a state that is heavily religious and still has a lot of that kind of like family values kind of thing. So it's like that did turn a lot of people off. And that happened way after the impeachment. Cal like just kind of went into a cocoon after the sex scandal came out. So now again, Maine, I don't know what the fuck happened in Maine. I don't know what the fuck was going on up there. But again, I don't know. It's a bizarre sidetrack here.
The campaigns that were run against them wasn't effective, but the Democrats did end up taking the Senate. And I'm not convinced that it didn't hurt. I mean, I think like you had good candidates in Ossoff and Warnock, and they hit the corruption quite a bit. Impeachment in and of itself was not enough, but I think the idea that they were so closely associated with Donald Trump did not help them. I mean, Donald Trump came down and campaigned, and it did not help them. So I don't think it was as effective as I thought it was, but they did end up taking the Senate. I mean, the goal was to take the Senate, and I thought that they would get more out of it.
Just talking about the Georgia races, they weren't talking about impeachment then. They were talking about $2,000 checks. They're talking about, elect us. McConnell's no longer the majority leader. Democrats are in charge. We're going to give you $2,000.
I don't think anything.
There you go. It's free real estate.
No, I agree. I don't think anything that was going to happen in January was going to be central, but it was like one more association with Donald Trump that they hewed themselves to him, and they both of them tried to do that, and it was not effective.
It's also let's just say the calculus is completely different between Donald Trump just incited a Capitol riot that killed 6 people. It was all broadcast on national television, right? There's a difference between that and I got impeached for a perfect phone call, right? Like, let's be honest here, right? Like yes, the Ukraine thing was true. Trump did violate the law in several portions, but also who gives a fuck about Ukraine? I do. I care about that stuff, but most Americans don't. And that's sad, and they should, but they don't. Whereas Donald Trump inciting a group of people to like literally climb the fucking walls of the Capitol building and in that killing 6 people in the process, that is a lot more visible on television. That's a lot more open and shut of a case. So I just want to say, comparing the two impeachments, I think is not necessarily something that I think someone with Virgil Texas's political commentary credentials should be doing. But that's just my opinion.
It was barely. And I think to a certain extent, Susan Collins was allowed to sort of create distance between herself and Trump, which was, you know, again, you have a tool, and if you have a hammer, and if you bang your head with the hammer, it's not going to help build. You're not going to help you build a house. You got to actually hit the nail on the head. But I think in this instance, again, it is.
I just imagine like Jimmy Dore, like after a show, just taking the hammer and banging himself in the head. Fuck.
Forcing the Republicans to be with Donald Trump, and I don't know that they. I mean, I think some of them definitely do, but some of them don't want to be.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, again, you know, it's hard to argue with. You know, Trump won North Carolina, and he probably took Richard Burr with him, and.
So again, the race was between Tom Tillis and Cal Cunningham. Now again, Virgil Texas is doing whippets and fucking vaping unknown substances and getting drunk on this stream. Now, I hate him for that. I'm just saying, like, that is factually what's happening. So I get him, you know, he doesn't live in North Carolina. I get him mixing up the names, but I'm just saying.
Maine, that's kind of a different situation where Collins was, you know, got enough Biden-Collins voters to get reelected. I mean, these are overdetermined things, elections, and, you know, we can sit here and bullshit about what we think is going to be the case. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, we don't really know, and fucking Nick Silver doesn't know. The voters don't even know.
I agree. I mean, that's sort of also my point with all of this, all of the force the vote stuff is that these things are very, very hard to predict. And when these type of tactics require this level of specificity and of outcome and incumbent upon reactions of the entire population, I think it can be tricky.
Wait, Brie, before we take questions, I want to go to one more point of conversation.
I'm just asking them to start putting them in the Slack. We don't have to start answering them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Writing them down.
As long as they're nice and pleasant. As long as they're pleasant and complimentary.
As long as they're nice and pleasant. Oh shit, let's go.
Let's get some nice questions going. I have one question, and it is kind of central to something that the two of you have been talking about, and it's obviously something that affects me as well. And I will just frame it in this way: Sam, as someone who has been a leftist radio host.
I just want to say I'm a podcast producer, right? I have been a video producer longer than I've been most things. I used to produce speedrun marathons way back in the day, like 7-8 years ago. I used to sit there with fucking like XSplit. Can you believe it? I used to sit there with like XSplit and do like fucking speedrun marathons and shit. So I'll explain that later, but I've been a producer for a long time. Right? But, like, I'm just saying, this is some ugly shit. So you got taking questions now in a big bubble, which that big bubble in the StreamYard program that they use, they use StreamYard. Their $35,000 a month podcast, they just use StreamYard, like very cheap software you can look up online. They don't have, like, a beautiful array. They don't have anything that looks, they don't have a studio. No, they just use fucking StreamYard. What's the... Hey, I just want to be honest. I'm not trying to shit on anyone. But again, like my podcast layout, like again, this whole thing is temporary because I'm out of town right now. But like my podcast layout is way better than theirs, and I don't make $35,000 a month. So I just want to say, I've been a producer for a while. I know these people aren't good at anything, apparently. So the idea that you're going to have taking questions now, which makes the webcam feeds, which is the only thing people care about, smaller, while you have this scrolling at the bottom that says subscribe and hit the bell, why not just say have subscribe and hit the bell, also send questions, we will take them and put them in the Slack or whatever? Right? Like, what is this layout? I'm sorry. I know I'm nitpicking. I know, but... For
the past 79 years, what do you view your job as? What do you view your obligations as, if anything?
No, I think that's a...
My sound might be fucking up because...
They have changed.
I'm sorry.
I'm
trying to find a good spot.
I mean, when I was on radio reaching...
I'm just going to stop moving.
Arguably any given time, with the potential to reach literally millions. I perceive it as different than one where it's, a fraction of that. And for me...
I just want to be, I'm not hating on StreamYard. A lot of my friends use StreamYard. I use StreamYard. I'm just saying, if you're getting paid $35,000 a month, not a year, even a year, I would say. If you're getting paid $35K a year, you should probably not be using StreamYard. But if you're getting paid $35K a month, and you're using StreamYard, I'm sorry. I find it problematic. I'm sorry.
I like to amplify different sort of ideas and histories and understanding of and context, and I like to on some level educate people as to, like, how things work. So
I think you have a pleasant voice. Thank you very much.
They have a better understanding of things.
I just want to be very clear here. Sam Seder is saying that he finds his goal or whatever, and also Virgil's drinking an unknown liquid of certain proportions. Sam Seder is saying his goal is to educate the public. Now, again, I've watched Sam Seder's show for a while. One of my favorite aspect of his show are the interviews he does. I watch the interviews way more than I watch the fun half, because honestly, I don't have time for that shit that much. But I love his interviews because he always has people on that are talking about like obscure historical events, and then, that's the thing is, like, I don't know a lot about these historical events, and yeah, sure, some of the people he brings on are a little libby, and some of them will say, like, I think Bernie's too socialist or whatever, and that's cringe, right? But it's like, okay, they're also informing me about something I also didn't know before, and then I can just go get information about that event from another source. So I do appreciate his content. I just want to say Jimmy Dore does the exact opposite of that. I explained that in depth earlier today. Jimmy Dore doesn't even know what an anarchist is. Sam Seder is not an anarchist, but I guarantee you he could tell you the definition of anarchism. Jimmy Dore, on the other hand, like, Brie calls him an anarchist. His friends call him an anarchist. His friends label him as far left. He doesn't even know what anarchist means. So I just, like, want to tell you that there is a stark difference between the two shows here. And Bad Faith just looks like an extension of the Jimmy Dore show when it comes to the programming. But hey, I don't watch it that much, but I'm just saying.
I don't, and I perceive that I'm arming people for engagement in this stuff.
What do I think of what do you think Sam appears on MSN? That's a poorly, I'm sorry. What do I think of him appearing on MSNBC? Good. If he goes on MSNBC and doesn't, if he goes against their narrative, that's great. I don't watch MSNBC. I've seen clips of him on MSNBC, and I haven't taken word or problem with much, but I also don't really care. I feel like if you can offboard wine moms from MSNBC onto the Majority Report, I feel like that's a net positive, personally. By the way, what every chatter said, you have a nice voice, is right. I just didn't want to be a chat simp. First of all, I want to say very explicitly, and this is not a joke. I want to make it very clear. This is not a joke. It might sound like a joke. I'm a very satirical person, but I'm not being satirical here when I say the following. You can compliment me on anything at any time. I will accept that compliment, and I will appreciate that compliment, and it makes my day better. So if you have any kind things you want to say about me, you don't have to worry about objectifying me. You don't have to worry about any of that dumb shit. Like, just say it, and I will read it, and then we can move on, because that shit, it just makes me happy to hear. So anyway, let's go.
With just a better understanding of it. And then I also, they're within, like, the YouTube culture of the right, for the most part.
I just want to say, like, people shitting, Sam Seder has an MSNBC contract. Meanwhile, Jimmy Dore goes on Tucker Carlson's show and says Joe Biden is the left and all leftists are neoliberals. That's fine. But Sam Seder trying to offboard like wine moms from liking Biden into being critical of Biden, oof, all of a sudden.
I go after those people because I feel like I have a set of tools that I can deploy and do that, and I've come increasingly over the past 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, to be sensitive of, like, what's happening on YouTube in terms of, like, young people.
So when you began, correct me if I'm wrong here, 2005, I believe, with Air America, was that 2004? Okay, so about when it started being acceptable to criticize the Iraq War and the war on terror. About when that started to be okay to make.
Yeah, I mean, it was still not acceptable at that time. Like, we had to leave the studio with a bat. Literally, I'm not joking. We both had bats. I mean, there was still a significant amount of death threats, and you were alienated.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and maybe this is, like, very good faith for me. You've been at this game for a while, and you have tangoed with Nancy Pelosi in the past, rhetorically. And I'm sure you remember when Nancy Pelosi, when the Democrats won the Senate.
If you can't handle the speed up, I'm sorry, but, like, I personally don't want to sit here for, like, 15,000 hours. So this is just purely for my comfort. I just want you to know that. Genenix 5 Californias. A subsect of leftists have a hard time distinguishing who our allies are and just seem to care about the posturing to be the most left. It infuriates me. Agreed. Again, it's all about, like, if you want to watch Jimmy Dore's show and, like, learn from it, I mean, I'm skeptical of that. But if you watch Jimmy Dore's show and you know that the guy's a dumbass, and you know that most of what he's saying are lies, but you just watch it for some like visceral, like, oh, I like how he yells or whatever. Like, okay, fine. Right? I personally disagree, but as long as you understand like what you're watching, that's okay. My problem is a lot of these people do not understand what they're watching, right? And so that's one of my problems. It's like, okay, yeah, do I disagree with Sam Seder on a lot of stuff? Absolutely. But does he do a good show overall that I can benefit from watching every now and then? Absolutely as well.
We're not expected to.
That's literally the definition of an ally.
Went back to House, didn't went back to Senate until 08.
No, that's false. They went back in 2006.
The House in 06.
No, in the Senate, no, in 2006, they went back to Senate. They had 51 votes in the U.S. Senate. They went with Jim Webb and
Chester?
Yes, and Tester, and a few others. I promise you that's the case.
Democrats gained 6 Senate seats by defeating Republican senators in the states of Missouri, Montana, Ohio, and Page is still loading.
Rhode Island was another one.
Okay, 2006.
Yeah.
Then they had the House and
Brie became majority leader in 2007, and Pelosi became Speaker of the House. Okay. And it was then that the left wanted the Congress to revoke funding for the Iraq War, to stop the war. That, this is what we've been fighting for the past 4 years now, and we elected the House, and this came with a lot of left energy, and a lot of people had soured on the war, so defund the war. And then another demand was impeach Bush. Yeah. And neither of these things happened. Now, these things happened. It was within Nancy Pelosi's purview as the Speaker of the House, and the House is supposed to, that's the people's house. It's fundamental to our constitutional system that the president just can't wage war that has to be paid for by the House of Representatives. And so defunding the war, like just refusing to pay for it, not even voting, so just refusing to pay for it, would be enough to stop the war. And they didn't do it.
Correct.
And they didn't do it. So I just, just reaching back to that history.
Well, let me
if you see any parallels to that.
I don't know about parallels per se. Like there wasn't, what happened in 06 was the war was what was driving a lot of activist energy. I think ultimately what won the House at that time was corruption. Mm-hmm. This guy who was involved in a scandal where he was basically preying upon his interns, it's Capitol Hill pages, and there was cover up from it. And you had like the number 2. I remember, I can't remember his name, but the guy from Buffalo. Yeah, I mean it was extensive, but the worst was the big one that hit in the fall was this Mark Foley scandal. Foley scandal, yeah. And I can tell you, I moderated a panel with Conyers and with Elizabeth Holtzman and.
Okay. So I just want to say real quick, I made a video a couple days ago. I saw a clip of this very debate on Twitter, and again, I hadn't watched the full thing. I'm watching it now. Of a question popping up about Michael. And I said in that video that it was either Brianna Joy Gray, Virgil Texas, or an unknown third producer who's not there. And this moment here, Brie saying oops makes it seem to me like Brie is the producer here. There is no third producer, and Virgil's probably not paying attention. So I just want to say very explicitly that's what it looks like. And also,
I can tell.
What is that? Sam Seder brought you Michael Brooks and has been building up the progressive movement for years. He isn't in it for the dollars, or he'd be Tim pulling it up, Jimmy Dorn it up for the dollars. Talk about a misclick. Whoops.
Tell you, I moderated a.
Yo, shout outs to Squid for Hire. Can someone get this person to find my stream and get them in here? Yo, let's go. Brie is like, oops.
This Mark Foley.
What? Don't look at that.
I can tell you, I moderated a panel with Conyers and with Elizabeth Holtzman and I think it was Louis Lapham at the town hall, and Conyers had a book like this of what you would impeach George Bush for. And people should not misunderstand. I've been saying for probably close to a year, particularly around when Pelosi first announced the PAYGO thing, which I think was in the fall of 2019, that I had come around to basically the position of I would rather someone whose ideology, I would rather Tim Ryan be Speaker of the House, because then it puts progressives in direct oppositional. Even from the conventional wisdom, I don't think Nancy Pelosi is progressive, but she has these sort of bona fides because she's from San Francisco.
Yeah. And she's one of the co-founders of the Congressional Progressive.
I can understand why half a dozen members of the House don't want to simply be responsible for not, for Nancy Pelosi not being elected or for being obstructionist to that happen. But if I had my druthers, I would rather see Tim Ryan and just be in opposition to who the Speaker is, be perceived as directly oppositional to them ideologically. But I think it's easy to make assumptions about how things are going to turn out and not know the
got some
the cost
classic cartoonage here.
Members of the caucus perceive. But that's what I would have done.
Brie, you made this comment?
Can I never mind.
So I did editorial cartoons for the Crimson. When I was this was a cartoon that I did around the Foley scandal.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I should probably take these down because they did not age well. All of that.
How interesting that it's about Facebook. The one thing that.
Oh, and that's when Facebook was just at Harvard, right?
By that time, I think it had broadened out, because there's another cartoon I saw as I was scrolling through just now where it was a joke about how everyone can get on Facebook now, which is not very camaraderie. To use the word of the
There
day.
was, I remember this moment that defines the 2006 win for me. There was a congressman, he was the number 3, I think, in the Republican caucus, maybe the number 2. And he was from, I think, Buffalo. Maybe it was like the 29th district in New York. I can't remember his name. And he had a press conference, and they wanted, and as this Foley scandal was breaking, that it became clear that the leadership knew about Foley. He held a press conference and brought 25 children with him that were children of his staffers.
What?
And he lined them up in the press conference with him. And one of the reporters
I'm
said,
sorry, but this is like a feature of my jacket that I just discovered, and this is just really blowing my mind.
did you bring all those kids in here so that we can't ask you questions about what Foley did? What are you talking about? And it was stunning. And you know, I wish, I don't know if people voted for a Democratic Congress because they wanted to defund the war. I like to think that they did, but I also think that corruption, more often than not, is what is a theme that ends up like,
there was corruption. They also ran on healthcare that year in 2006. I mean, it depends who you ask. If you ask Rahm Emanuel, he's going to say, well, it's because he was in charge of D-Trip then. He's going to say, well, it's because I recruited all these veterans, black veterans, and all that shit. I mean, we all remember the wackiness of that time. In fact, they won. That was also the year, I remember very well that they took back the Senate because that's when Rick Santorum went down, 2006. That's when Lincoln Chafee went down, 2006.
Definitely a Santorum cartoon.
That's when I just want to see more of
Santorum, 2006. Oh, man, I feel old.
Yeah, That's when Jim Webb beat.
Well, I remember Webb. Yes.
2006. That's the like you said.
We all thought Jim Webb was the guy.
That was a talent going down in Missouri, beat by Claire McCaskill.
Yep.
That's when Lieberman got reelected, even after losing.
Lamont. Yes.
Wow, this is all coming back to me too. Oh my God. I just want to see more Brie cartoons.
Lamont announced his candidacy on radio with me.
Really? I didn't know that.
I was filling in for Randy Rhodes, so I got him on because he had a very big audience, and he came on.
This is all just, of course, they're just having a conversation right now. I'm sorry, but this is like, they're just having a conversation. I'm going to pump it up a little bit.
It was a Friday. He made the official announcement on Monday, but he said on Friday that he was going to run against Lieberman. I was not a fan of it.
And the reason why I asked this question about left is because right now it really does feel, because there's not a left movement in this country.
I don't think
there's not a left party. There's not a real labor movement in this country. It's been fucking destroyed. It's fucking destroyed for the past 50 years. And not like we have other countries. And Brie and I, we just recorded an episode with Bhaskar Sankara and David Duvaldi and Sean KB from the Antifada, where we talked about these very issues. And right now, the left is largely constituted. I mean, it's not very big. It's not on television. It's not in the New York Times. It's largely a subcultural thing. The audience, we can haggle over how big the audience is. We can point to how many small donations Bernie Sanders got, how many fundraising records he broke for small donations. He broke all of them. Yeah, but nevertheless, it's not it's not a structural thing. It's not a big thing. It's not part of the background of the structural political system. And that means that right now the left, generally as people perceive it, is a mixture of elected officials who take on the status of celebrities, AOC.
How many fingers do I see? That's a good question. Wow. That's a great question.
Roy Bush, Bernie Sanders, obviously, and small batch media hosts like us three. And that's not.
Now, I just want to say, I don't know, man. I feel like Virgil's getting a little bit too much into the main character syndrome. Honestly, bad faith has almost no impact on I'm sorry, Chapo maybe is like a drop in the bucket, maybe, but it's like there's a little bit of like main character syndrome. Like, if you want to say there's a left base in this country, it would just be young people. Like, anyone under the age of 25 is like 80% likely to be a socialist or something. Like, I saw like a poll that was done that was like 3/4 of people under the age of 24, Generation Z, I believe it was, of which I'm a millennial. I am past the cutoff. I am 24. Generation Z is under 24, so I just want that to be explicit. But it was like they were favorable of socialism, like 3/4 or something. I don't know. Like, someone can fact check me, but
that's not sufficient. And my position has always been that, and this is why I try my best to never put my finger down on the scale on tactical disagreements or things like that. Even though I do, have opinions that I want to express. I don't think that it's generally fair for someone like Sam Seder or Jimmy Dore or Brianna Gray or Virgil Taxis, whoever else, to have for their opinion have greater weight than anyone else involved in what is supposed to be an egalitarian movement.
I mean, that is, like I say, my perspective on this was when I felt like the ask was the wrong ask. My response to my coming to that conclusion was to say nothing. And it wasn't, I didn't engage in it. I mean, I gave it some amplification, as Brie said, that's where she heard about it. I gave it some amplification, and it wasn't until I felt like...
What would potentially be the worst mistake of his career. Whoa, buddy.
Jimmy was doing something destructive. And even then, I was more about I wasn't even commenting on the car. I was just saying the guys, I was commenting on the driver. And when I didn't, engage in watching when Sirota tried to say we should have different asks, or when I can't remember what it was, Ben tried to say that we should have different asks, or when Stoller was trying to say we should have different asks. And, those were train wrecks. And so
but that's true. I agree. But Ben, Stoller, Sirota, Jimmy, and I are all on the same side of this issue.
I mean, the nuance was destroyed, and that's fine. I mean, I haven't.
I love how, again, Virgil and Sam just had a regular conversation, and then Sam tries to reset the conversation again back to force the vote. And then Brie immediately is like, we're all in the same team. Why are you against us? They're all on the same side as we are.
I argued with Jimmy. I'm sure have complaints about Jimmy. I don't think that he behaved well toward them in all those instances.
Well, it's not so much that he behaved well to it. It's that it was quite clear to me, walking away from watching that as a viewer, that what he was doing was, in my opinion, more destructive.
That's fine, but I'm just saying that the subject of all of that ire.
Now, I want to tell you all of this again, I really want to shout out Kennedy from Not Safe for Wonks. I had them on my show a couple weeks ago, and they made an extremely, bizarrely perfect point that is just galaxy brain stuff, and I want to bring it up here. They said that, again, imagine if you're going to walk into a union meeting or just any organizing meeting. Imagine, for example, I hosted a lot of events for Bernie Sanders in my city in North Carolina during the primary. Now imagine, right, if I open my door and we're doing a Bernie Sanders campaign event, right, and I get 50-year-olds coming in, right, and they're I like Bernie, I'm just here to see what's going on. Now imagine they walk into my house and I am screaming, I get 10 to 12 million views on my YouTube! You know what they're going to do? They're going to turn around and they're going to walk away. That's what they're going to do. And you know what also they're going to do? They're going to go tell their friends, yeah, I went to a Bernie Sanders meeting, and it was just some crazy person going, I can turn the 12 million views, right? That's what they're going to do. And then they're going to tell their friends that, and then their friends are going to tell their friends, and that's just going to give the whole thing a bad taste in everyone's mouth, right? You don't go to a union meeting or an organizational meeting and then start screaming, I can turn the 12 million views, right? That's not what you do. That's not what a human being does, right? And if you do that, you cannot be shocked that all of a sudden no one wants to be around you, right? So that's the thing here is, again, you have to understand. They're trying to treat this like it's an official, we're strategizing, we're organizing. There's a reason why only 15 motherfucking people showed up to your dumb event in Washington last month, right? There's a reason. It's because no one wants to be around you. Sam Seder is laying it out as clear as day here. No one wants to be around Jimmy Dore. That's what Sam Seder is saying. But Brianna cannot handle that. She cannot handle, again, she just can't handle it. A simple disagreement. I don't like Jimmy Dore. I don't want to be associated with him. To Brianna Joy Gray, it's it's just
who got shouted down. I'm not saying it was right that they got shouted down, but despite all of that, they didn't throw out cars just because there was a bad driver. They still like the car. They just want to take the wheel.
We had a disagreement about how dangerous a car can be in the hands of the wrong person. And
but they just took the wheel. They just decided to not let me drive it to make their own arguments, and they supported the argument.
They're better people than I am. I mean, I don't know what to say. This was my assessment. I have, I am aware of Jimmy, and I think he's, and like I say,
that felt really good, by the way.
I was willing to ignore that initially, and then it just became impossible for me to ignore. I felt implicated in it, and I didn't want any part of that. And so that's how I acted on that. I mean, for the most part, look, to your point, Virgil, I don't do a show where I don't take phone calls. I don't do a show where I don't, where questions are sent. But my point is that I try and platform as many people as I can. I don't really care about doing that with people on the right, to be honest with you. I'm not going to pretend like I do that because I don't, I'll bring on the
frauds and imbeciles.
Huh?
These are frauds and imbeciles.
Right. I'll bring on some frauds and some imbeciles, but it'll be mainly to indicate that they're frauds and imbeciles. But they
stumble onto there.
I think
Ian Kinzel, $5. This super chat comes from the Russian bot propping up bad faith. I'm coming clean because Brianna Joy Gray's arguments are horrible and I can't take it anymore. Thank you, Russia.
I think your point about where the left is well taken. Now, I happen to think that there's actually more of a left now than there was 15 years ago, and I think our society broadly has. I think a lot of that is generational, and I try to not be satisfied with that. Both to have some perspective on it, but also let it, be perceive it as insufficient because the times demand more. I mean, we're in many respects in worse situations than we were even 15 years ago. Yeah. And I think building upon what we have is crucial. And I think that that when I see something that I think is inhibiting the building of that project, if we had 50 more Cori Bushes or Jabal Bowmans or AOCs in Congress, things would be very, very different. And I think that what Jayapal is doing with the Progressive Caucus is relevant. I think it's important. I mean, before it's been just like you pay $4,000 and you get the branding, and they are trying to restructure that so that you can get a smaller group of people but who are more cohesive. And I support that project, and I don't want it undercut because.
When you say Kyle, who are you referring to? XOXO? Are you referring to Kyle of the Kalinsky variety or another one?
Someone has a theory that I think is arguably dubious.
So my perspective is that to build on what we have already, we have to make sure that 20 years from now, or whenever it is that we finally have whatever the quotient of progressives there need to be for us to start making any kind of basic demands to catch us up with the rest of the developed world, the original progressives are still progressive and not like Nancy Pelosi, who was widely perceived to be a genuine progressive 30 years ago when she was championing Medicare for all, and she was asking why we didn't have a floor vote. And to keep people honest, it's not about individually deciding to be corrupt, but there's a real...
Again, this framing of, oh, we're just holding politicians accountable. It's the same dumb bullshit of, oh, it's not about stealing the election for Donald Trump. It's filing lawsuits on the basis of election integrity. Oh, we're not trying to steal or overthrow the election. No. We're just trying to make sure it's secure. Huh? Oh, no, this isn't about banning transgender people from sports. No. This is about protecting women and girls. Huh? No, this isn't about banning women from video games. No. This is about ethics and games journalism. It's the same shit.
Thing called institutional creep that people have been studying for generations. And when you have power, what ends up happening is you think, wow, I have the ability to deliver for my constituents this thing tomorrow. And that is real. And those are real people who need a real thing. And you are constantly negotiating the trade-off between, do I hold out?
Sarah Darklaw, I think he's lazy and his takes are becoming irrelevant. He isn't evolving. If we're talking about Kyle Kulinski, yes, that is an exactly correct and beautiful analysis of Kyle Kulinski. I watched Kyle Kulinski quite a bit in 2016 and 17. Because I liked how like he did wacky voices. I like doing wacky voices. And if I turned on a Kyle Kulinski video right now, it would be the exact same content. Like I guarantee you, Kyle Kulinski has not learned like any new theory, has not learned any new definitions of any new words in the last like 5 years. I guarantee it. And that's not to shit on him. I think he's a decent commentator. I don't like that he's doing a lot of these podcasts now with like really questionable people like Crystal Ball and stuff like that. But you know, I'm not willing to cancel him yet. Like Brie, at this point, I've canceled. If you talked to me a month ago, right, when this whole force to vote thing started, I was like, I like Brianna Joy Gray. Like, I like her. I met her in person. We had a nice conversation, and you know, I talked to her on Twitter and stuff during the campaign. And now I just don't like her. I'm sorry. I've seen enough, right? For Kyle, I haven't seen enough yet to say I don't like him, but you know, I'm just pointing that out there. But yeah, his content is boring and irrelevant. I can't watch a Kyle Kulinski video. I just can't. Like, it's like all he's useful for is just reading the news and the article, and that's it. Like, I don't know. But that's just me. Like, for me, I gain nothing from that. For someone else, they might gain something from that. It's all about perspective here.
For this thing that may or may not come down the line, or do I settle and deliver this real tangible benefit from the people who are looking at my face in my district every day? And the reason that I disagree with Dora's approach is because I think it's important to point out that it's not about individually decide to sell out, which is what people can take away from calling someone a sellout, and more about the institutional creep that I just described. But
and that dilemma that you just outlined too.
Which is just legitimate. But what I do think is useful about Dora's framing and the energy that he's bringing to this is that constructively, if you are behaving the same way as a person who did literally sell out, because you are waiting whether or not to take a risk or not take a risk in a way that leads you to the same outcome every single time, then at a certain point, does it matter what's going on in your heart or your head? Like, I think it does matter to people because we like AOC. I like AOC. I've interviewed AOC many times. I think that she has, interpersonally, I'm inspired by her. I think a lot of us feel strongly positively about AOC.
Again, it's not about when Jimmy Dore says, I'm coming for you and I'm never going to stop. When Jimmy Dore says we got to rake her over the coals in front of a million subscribers, right? It's just holding politicians accountable. But when Sam Seder disagrees with me on my podcast, oh no, he's a paid shoe. Like, we all saw Brianna Joy Gray's fucking Twitter feed. Like, look at this. Like, look. I know you've read nothing I've written, listened to any of the interviews I've given on the subject, and were completely unfamiliar with the arguments core to the debate. My supporting evidence, by the way, is that I clipped you out of context, cutting you off in the debate before you could finish your point. Like, we all know that, like, what you go understand my point.
AOC. But I also think it's fair to want to hold her feet to the fire.
I agree.
And if I think there's room for Jimmy Dore, I think there's room for Kyle Kulinski, who's like, hey, I'm the guy who started the organization that got you elected. And we didn't intend for you to take this kind of lackadaisical approach. The whole point of Justice Democrats was to have someone who was oppositional, who was willing to burn out and be a one-term congressperson if it meant putting these ideas on the map. I think it's fair to have someone who's more like me. I think there's to have someone to have more like Tim Black's approach, and on until you get someone, some folks who are saying, hey, I like you, AOC, but I'm going to push you gently. But someone...
my goal with my show above it all, now that we're at 1,098 episodes and counting, my goal with this show is to have enough of an outreach that people will discuss me like this in passing in other people's shows. That's the goal here. It's like, oh yeah, and then like this person and that person and like all that. I want Brianna Joy Gray to talk about me in that fact. I'm sorry, is that narcissistic? I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here having a good time. Got some Sunset Lake CBD right here. Let's go.
It has to make you afraid. And that's where the Tea Party on the right, I think, gets it a little bit more right. There have to be people who they know are going to embarrass them a little bit to get them to, and you can disagree about this particular tactical moment. I'm not talking about that. But I think generally speaking, the left isn't willing to do anything that would quote unquote hurt the people that we have elected, including Joe Biden, which is why we're not seeing elected representatives even in the squad saying things like, why isn't Joe Biden
This is the greatest show on YouTube. Thank you.
delivering on Medicare for all? Why, I mean, or things he can do by himself, like student debt cancellation. They'll say, I want to cancel student debt, but they won't say Joe Biden can do this and he won't. Put the pressure on him, right? And so that's the kind of adversarial attitude people are wanting more. That's my main complaint.
I agree. I mean, I agree in terms of your broad point. And I just think that, I think that it is, and it's situational. And I think, I don't make an assessment of what's in AOC's heart. I don't, I don't really care, like what about politicians, like if they're nice or not nice, or if they're sincere or not sincere. Like
they talked about me on Convo Couch. Damn right. We started on Convo Couch. Now we're going to the moon, baby.
I perceive them as tools, as instruments. And
Mudjo, yeah, I already covered the tweets. I'm gonna upload that as a separate clip after this show is over. But yeah, you can go rewind and watch like the first 20 minutes or something. Well, actually, wait. The small minds thing, yeah. I might do that one. I didn't cover that one, actually. I might do that one in the morning. It deserves it.
But there are times where it's like I say, I'm not going to use my phone. I could hammer in a nail with this, but I'm going to break it. And I'm not saying that this would necessarily, break.
Can we talk about, speaking of reading my titles, can we talk about how my titles really trigger the fuck out of door people? I've been in if you look at any of my force the vote video titles, I always try to make them in the most inflammatory way possible, that the doorknobs that click on them are going to get triggered immediately. And I've been succeeding. I've been succeeding very much so, and you can just go look at them for proof of that.
AOC, but I'm saying that there is a calculation at times where it's like, is using this tool to do this worth it in terms of the outcome? And in this situation,
that would have been broken. What do you imagine? I mean that sincerely, like, in good faith. What do you imagine the negative consequences for AOC in the squad? I want to broaden it.
I'm glad that she specified that. I mean this seriously and in good faith. I'm glad that she.
I mean that sincerely, like, in good faith. What do you?
I'm glad that because that specificity leads me to believe that she did not mean the rest sincerely and in good faith.
Imagine the negative consequences for AOC in the squad. I want to broaden it because it's not all on AOC. I don't think it's fair to put it all on AOC. But what do you think the negative consequences would have been?
Well, I think there were negative consequences by the way that this was handled.
No. If they had gone ahead and said, yes, let's force the vote, everyone's
from their perspective.
Okay, I'm down to do a video about I've done some videos about Kyle before. I'm down to do more videos of them if y'all want me to look at his bad takes or whatever. I'm fine to do that. That's one thing I don't forgive Kyle for, leaving JD. I imagine creating an organization that brought us the most progress in generations, but leaving it and still taking credit. Wasn't that over? Didn't he leave it in some bizarre cancel culture kind of thing? Where I don't remember all the details. Someone remind me of the details. I don't know. I don't know if I say. I don't know if I'd say. I can't forgive him, but I mean, yeah, I remember it being very bizarre. I thought I heard Nomiki mention having you on. Yeah, Nomiki's had me on her show. Shout outs to Nomiki. I'm stepping up. And I'm stepping on. I need to get Nomiki on my show. That's what we need to do. Can we all get this going? Tomorrow in Nomiki's live stream, go in the chat room and say, hey, when are you going to go on Above It All? That's what we got to do. We got to start. We got to hold Nomiki accountable. That's what we got to do. We got to use this show and we got to take a bold approach. We got to hold Nomiki accountable. And the only way to do that is to spam her chat room until she got no, but for real though. It was Jenk's old right. Yeah, Jenk's old blog posts. Yeah, that was dumb. I understand. Okay, so there's a two-pronged thing. One, I understand why Justice Democrats would want to distance themselves from someone that has that association with them. I get it. Is it unfair? Yes. Is it stupid? Yes. Is it buying into right-wing propaganda? Yes. However, I understand the motive of it's harder to have conversations about things if people are just going to keep asking about Cenk first and foremost, right? I get it. I understand. So if the goal is to try to elect as many Justice Democrats as possible, I get it. Like, I've got dumb shit I've said in my past, and if people don't want to work with me because of that, that's fine. I'll work with other people, right? That's my thing. So I get it. I don't but I think, yeah, Kyle left in like some weird solidarity thing with him. I feel, from what I understand, he covered that really dumbly and didn't understand the nuance. Like, he was just kind of like doing this thing where it's like, they canceled Cenk and I'm leaving, right? And it's like, I felt, yeah, now that you remind me, I do remember how cringy that was. Like, again, I get it. I totally understand both perspectives. And to my understanding, I think Cenk was fine with it. And it's just like Kyle was like, okay, I'm leaving too.
Like what? I mean, I don't have a full sense of, from their perspective, what they would perceive the cost to be if they, but also,
I don't care if Nomiki kills 15 kids. I mean, Nomiki could kill 16 kids. I'll up the ante. Not only does Nomiki need to have me on her show, she needs to come on my show. This is a double dip. And not only that, but she also, and this is a call out post. Someone like record this and post it on Twitter. This is a call out post, right? Nomiki needs to give me all of her guests' emails and then send them emails saying that they need to come on my show. And then I will send them emails that they need to come on my show. And then I will sign them up for an email list that I probably could have, thought of a funny email list to throw in there, but I'll think of a funny one. I'll sign them up for like Ted Cruz's email list or something like that, but maybe a funnier member of Congress, right? I couldn't think, but that's what we got to do. That's what we got to organize. And again, I'm not bullying her when I say this. I'm not trying to harass her. I'm just trying to hold her accountable. Right? Like, I'm just literally just trying to hold someone accountable here. Y'all are saying I'm demanding too much, and here I am just saying I'm just trying to hold her accountable, right?
Don't just make it just about force of vote, because I think there are some things that I would argue. I mean, personally, for me, I would like them to have to get rid of Nancy Pelosi.
Me too.
That's a different strategy, though, than force the vote.
No,
right?
I always argued in the alternative. I always said in the alternative. Like, to me, I wanted them to make so many demands that were so big that, frankly, they would be forced to say no. That would then spotlight how useful the demands are at the same time as giving them an excuse to vote out Nancy Pelosi. That was always my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that from their perspective, I think AOC paid a price in.
Kyle is a frat bro with a political talk show, and there's an appeal to that. Yeah. I get you. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I don't hate him. I think his show is not for me. It's definitely not for me. I mean, I'm sorry if I've... Let me put... Actually, I'm just going to... I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible. Kyle Kulinski's secular talk...
Only the really... I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ...
would watch such a program. Obviously, I am just saying that in jest. I mean, one of the things is, again, all these people, like Jimmy Dore getting triggered by, like, Sam Seder, like, is really funny, because Jimmy Dore is a self-described comedian. Like, if someone wants to, like, shit all over me, I don't care. Like, fucking go for it, dude. Like, but that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone. I just want to be that, like, I just want that to be very obvious and upfront. I'm really not trying to hurt anyone's feelings here. Except Jimmy Dore, honestly. Fuck that guy, but... I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings here. I'm not out here to make people's lives worse. I'm just out here to make people's lives better. And if, making fun of your podcast is a way to get there, I will get there in that fashion.
In leading the charges to primary.
JL, $10. Above it all, wrapped around in fire emojis. Hell yeah.
Well, that's
So
why
should she have primary people?
Huh?
Do you think she shouldn't have primary people?
No, I think she should.
Okay, this part's important. I'll scroll back a bit.
But I think that from their perspective,
To me,
get rid of Nancy Pelosi.
Me too.
That's a different strategy, though, than force the vote.
No,
right?
I always argued in the alternative. I always said in the alternative. To me, I wanted them to make so many demands that were so big that, frankly, they would be forced to say no. That would then spotlight how useful the demands are at the same time as giving them an excuse to vote out Nancy Pelosi. That was always my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that from their perspective, I think AOC paid a price in leading the charges to primary people. That's
so
why
should she have primary people?
Huh?
Do you think she shouldn't have primary people?
No, I think she should have. No, I think she should have. I mean, I think from my perspective, it is because this is more long term. I want more progressives in Congress, and I'm not convinced that I don't think that her seat on the Energy and Commerce Committee, even though that would be super valuable, would be worth.
Yeah. So like Brianna Joy Gray here is just basically she's arguing what Sam Seder argued in the beginning of the debate. Like, I remember Sam Seder specifically using the term "let 1,000 flowers bloom." I remember him saying that because he said it like 4 different times or whatever. And I think I had to explain it. So, but anyway, so Brianna Joy Gray just said, yeah, I just want to let 1,000 flowers bloom. Now, she said that now. Earlier, she said it was just about Medicare for all, and how dare you, it's a pandemic, 15 million people lost their health care or whatever, right? So an hour ago, it was, oh, how dare you, good sir, it's healthcare, a pandemic. Now it's like, oh, I mean, you know, there's an alternative, this and that and everything. And I think it's, again, very important because you have to understand that she has flip-flopped many, many times in this debate, whereas Sam Seder's opinion is, I don't like Jimmy Dore, I don't want to be associated with Jimmy Dore. That's literally Sam Seder's opinion. That's his argument. That's what he came on to say. That's what he said on his show for weeks. We already knew his opinion, right? So it's like Brianna's like just really just kind of shifting around, and it really feels like Brianna Joy Gray is doing a thing where she's just trying to, like, she's letting Sam talk, and then when she feels like she can get a clip-worthy moment, she'll ask a certain question or say something provocative, get that clip-worthy moment, because again, on her Twitter, she posted those out-of-context clip-worthy moments of her cutting Sam Seder off, making it look like he didn't, like, understand something, right? So it's like she's already done that, right? So that's what it feels like this whole thing is. She's just kind of listening to him talk. It's like, oh, opening, start recording, blah, 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 ha-ha. And then Sam's like, well, okay, whatever. And then stop recording and then post it on Twitter.
Trading, 2 or 3 other seats that she's probably responsible for. And those 2 or 3 seats could translate into 5 or 6 next cycle.
You know what's funny to me about the seat stuff, by the way? And I would ask your opinion on this as, a professional, a political professional. Why is it, like, we all kind of accept that doing something to, like, rock the queen, to upset Queen Pelosi, can result in these really punitive outcomes, right? So we all kind of accept that Nancy Pelosi is giving appointments out based on who pleases her as opposed to who would be best, who would in the position or help the Democratic Party. Why isn't that we as media figures reframe that to make it so that there's a political cost for Nancy Pelosi basically choosing to hurt some of the most popular members in Congress over, like, some stupid peccadillo of hers?
I mean, I've certainly attempted to do that in terms of the fact that she controlled all the subpoena power of all the committees in a way that was unprecedented and prevented people from investigating Donald Trump. I did that in terms of, like, when she, I don't know that I ever stopped, but the first people forget that they unveiled HR 1 when they won in 2018, and they stepped all over it by attacking Ilhan Omar. And I still am talking about it, obviously, and that was 2 years ago. And I think, in the instance of the vote with AOC, that was actually a secret vote by the nominating committee, by the slating committee. So 50 members of Congress, and she got wiped out. I mean, it was 40.
The discourse is so much, and I don't mean you in particular, but generally the discourse is like, Pelosi will punish X person for this. Pelosi will punish. And it's like, if we're talking part of the power, all of the power that the squad has is that they're enormously popular, not just with the left, but with all of, like, kind of the yes queen liberals who like a beautiful, stylish, brown woman on the cover of their magazine, whether it's Ilhan or AOC or whomever. So there should be, sometimes I wish in this moment, I think the thing that hurt me the most is that I wish the squad members recognize that their political capital lay with us, not with them, and lay with the broader public even beyond the left. And that's a real kind of power that, like, I dare Nancy Pelosi to come outwardly at AOC. Right now, if she stays in the inside game, the inside game, and Pelosi's always going to win. But if she comes out...
But, okay, as Sam just mentioned, one of the very first things Nancy Pelosi did in 2018 was harass and attack Ilhan Omar. Remember when Donald Trump's rally chanted, "Send her back, send her back"? Remember how outraged everyone was? Well, you know why they said that, right? Because Donald Trump was talking about how Ilhan Omar was saying evil stuff. And where did he get that from? The news. Where did the news get that from? Nancy Pelosi. So Nancy Pelosi gave Trump talking points to use against Ilhan Omar. That's what she did on, like, day fucking 4 of the last, like, Congress, right? So I just want that to be understood. Like, they have been against AOC and Ilhan Omar. That already has been very open and apparent. No, I don't know.
To the public, that's where AOC has real power, and she's been so reluctant to do that.
If you look at the reporting on that committee, on the slating committee vote, all the reporting has a line somewhere in one of the reports on it that was this vote public, the outcome would probably been very different. They wouldn't have voted for Rice. They would have probably voted for AOC because they would have been afraid of that. But the problem is that the vast majority of Americans do not pay attention to everything that we're talking about. And they're not going to get invested in this type of procedural stuff. And so
pay attention to an AOC went to Hunts Point yesterday during an inauguration and managed to steal press from the inauguration, and her interview with Chris Cuomo about it was like the #1 clicked news clip on Twitter today. So if AOC decides to give something attention, it gets attention, which is part of what the core of what this force of vote thing is all about.
But like you said earlier, the assessment that she's making is it going to allow me to draw attention to maybe these labor struggles? Is it going to allow me to draw attention to raising funds, going on and playing Among Us and raising $500,000 for the people in her district? Is it going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z these things if I have a showdown to the death with Nancy Pelosi over over
anything? Name your thing, Sam. It could be anything.
Okay.
Let's be clear for a second. Forget the Medicare for all.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. I don't know, but I speculate that if AOC thought that if she was to deny Nancy Pelosi the vote, that Medicare for all would necessarily happen. I suspect she would do that. I think the issue is like, am I going to risk this for something that is got, whether I think there's a 10% chance of this happening or 90% chance of that happening will determine how I assess the cost benefit analysis of that.
Yeah, I hear you, Sam, but I'm asking you to play a mind game.
I love this. Brie is just like, let's move on. I agree, Sam. Literally what Sam said undercuts Brie's entire argument. Is that Brie is acting as if, yeah, this is going to happen. Jimmy's going on his show. Of course, they're going to vote against it. Nico House, and again, I don't want to bring him up all the time, but Nico House debated me and had the same exact position. AOC had unlimited power. Of course they would vote for Medicare for all. What, are you kidding? It's like, no, they won't vote for Medicare for all. So these people are in one breath saying that it's a 100% chance that Medicare for all will pass. And then in the other breath saying, well, of course it's not going to pass, but it's a media campaign. It's about going against them in the media. And it's just like, so Brie's saying, yeah, I agree with that, but he just undercut your whole point. Now, again, she's going for clippable moments here. She's not actually having a conversation. And that's why she didn't want to go on the Majority Report. That's why she wanted to have Sam on her show. Was because she wanted to clip all the moments, she wanted to control everything, and she wanted to try to make this a viral media campaign. And she did.
Are you saying that you don't think a floor vote is worth it? And I do, but we're going to agree to disagree. I'm asking you, in the entire panoply of...
I like how Virgil is like... Virgil's just, he's having a bad time right now. Like he's drinking a mysterious brown liquid. He's doing mysterious substances. He's popping on and off of the stream altogether. He's turning his webcam on and off. He's doing like this into the camera. Now, clearly I know that that's to focus the webcam, but I'm just going along with it. He's doing some really bizarre stuff, so I hope he's okay.
Things that exist in the world, things that are needed, things asked that we have to make. Bernie Sanders is obviously pushing this executive, emergency Medicare for all plan for the COVID. Which, a lot of these are tough sells because of Biden and Democrats, right? These are not Republicans. It's not tough sells because they're Republicans. Student debt cancellation, Biden can do it like this. They're all pretending like they got their thumbs up their butt like they can't do it. Like, we all know. So, thought experiment. It's January. No, let's say it's end of November when this all started percolating. And you have the ability to frame this in any way you want. Would you say, yes, force, we should withhold a vote from Nancy Pelosi in exchange for, what would you demand? And do you think that would make a difference in terms of like,
Zero PE. I thought Ben had went too far when he said Brie upholds white supremacy, but I no longer think that now. Well, first and foremost, again, I want to say that this is not my position. As a white person, it's not my position to say that that's what she doesn't do or whatever. At the time, I thought that was definitely a little bit too far. But Ben, I'm assuming you're referring to Ben Dixon, has known Breonna Joy Gray for several years. And I only really just knew her from the Michael Brooks show, and then she became the press secretary for Bernie. So I haven't known her that long. I have never spoken to her up until the Bernie campaign on a personal factor. So, when it comes to understanding how someone works from a long-term perspective, I can't play that game. So whether or not Ben Dixon saying that is correct or not, it, is probably closer to, like, it's not a binary, right? It's probably closer to being correct than it is to being incorrect. So
how much you got behind this, because this situation is going to rise again. The margins in the House are so slim, but it's not going to involve Nancy Pelosi. It's not going to have the same force of threat for that reason. But they're going to be.
I watched Majority Report. I remember them distinctly saying that they tried to get force the vote people on their show and they wouldn't. I think I remember them saying like at least twice. I don't know if they said it any more than that. But I assume that meant Brie.
Be a lot of opportunities for the left to say, we're not going to go along and get along unless you give me something. It won't get as much publicity. It won't be as big an impact because, again, my personal view is that Nancy Pelosi and her enormous unpopularity was really the hook that got you a lot of the scintillating coverage, including on the right-wing media, right? Right-wingers hate Pelosi. If Fox News is talking about Pelosi, then MSNBC feels compelled to defend Pelosi. Pelosi's on the TV giving interviews. Pelosi is terrible in interviews. You also saw that horrible clip that came out of the Hillary Clinton campaign. And the whole thing just becomes a rat race that inures the benefit of the left and Medicare for all. But you're designing this from scratch. You have an opportunity to admit, what would you ask for? Do you think that there are things that would have been worth using the political capital?
So Breonna Joy Gray is saying, all right, what if reality did not exist? What if I just created a new Minecraft server? And what if the context of everything were completely different? Well, then what, Sam? Who's laughing now, Sam?
Like what would have been worth what would have been a good ask? I mean, honestly, like I think committee positions are hugely important. And I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean, I'm not being clear. I don't know how much, when that vote comes 43-13 or whatever on the Energy and Commerce, or at the very least, like Katie Porter getting that waiver. Other people have gotten waivers. They should have gotten that waiver. She got squeezed a little bit. Maybe I'll get rid of seniority on committees as an organizing principle, because that acts against the interests of progressives. Because
we don't get Bernie, right? then we lose out on our Bernie.
Well, I mean, it's in the House, right? But
is the seniority system still in the House? Because I thought they abolished that.
I'm pretty sure it is. I would get rid of it in the Senate too, to be honest with you. I would have liked to see Durbin not get judiciary. But you're right. Bernie might have had a problem in that situation. But I think anything that can get newer members more power, I think is good. Because I feel like Nancy Pelosi has been leader of the Democrats for almost 20 years, and there's been like maybe a half a dozen, at least, Republican leaders in the House. And I think that is it's shocking.
Yeah, it really is.
I think I would look for things that are structural, that will, because I am of the mind that the left does not have much power right now, and I would look for things that would enhance that power. And maybe it would be like we want a specific person in the DCCC, so that the resources are deployed differently in terms of who gets reelected. Off the top of my head, I can say, to answer it off the top of my head in a general sense, I would look for more structural things. Okay. Because I want to build that power over time. Because, like I say, it just gets back to use my phone to nail in a nail. Like I could probably get that nail into this wood desk with my phone, but then the phone is done, and all I've done is that one nail. And
I asked you, Sam, what you thought that what are the concrete losses that the squad would?
I just want to say, like, I have nothing to add on that. I think that's his perspective, right? And if we are, like, again, that's the thing. It's like Brie is not advocating for like civil unrest or organized civil disobedience. I mean, she is, but she only got 15 people showing up, right? So the thing is, like, if we're talking about what you can do within House, like, of Representatives rules or whatever, Sam is laying out something that you can do. And sure, I agree with it. Yeah, you could do that. That would be nice. Now, personally, I am more oriented in the outside world. I am more oriented in, like, culture and that kind of stuff for how we get our stuff passed. So that's my focus as opposed to policy or, like, I guess strategic electoral policy. I think it's important to pay attention to that, right? But it's important to understand that Brianna Joy Gray is simultaneously having two competing arguments that she is promoting. She's trying to say that it's all bunk, man, like, while also saying, like, this is the most important parliamentary procedure. We got to force the vote on Medicare for all. And then at the same time, it's all bunk, man. So let's watch. Which one does she choose here?
Accrue if they were to withhold a vote for Nancy Pelosi. And so if you're saying that what you really would ask them to hold it out for is committee chairs, the committee seats, and they went ahead and withheld the vote in order to get committee seats, well, then by definition, they couldn't even take away committee seats from them, right? Because they would have gotten them as part of their campaign. So what is it that we're so afraid of them losing? Because for me, it's not that I was so sure of the benefit, but there was just no downside to the thing. They already talk shit about Medicare for all. There's already billions of dollars of advertising against Medicare for all. The media's already against it. It can't get any worse than this. So what is the downside to trying?
Well, I'm not convinced, frankly, that 5 freshman or sophomore Congress people or 6 or whatever preventing Pelosi from getting this. I know you're convinced that people that somehow, despite the media imbalance and despite the conventional wisdom.
Don't talk about the upsides, because I don't know about the upsides.
No,
My question right now is where are the downsides?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in that standoff, I'm not convinced that they wouldn't pay a massive price in terms of their popularity. I think that there may be a lot of people who turn against them who are somewhat supportive, and to the extent that they have, I mean, I understand the calculus that they have power, presumably, holding over Pelosi, but I'm not convinced that Pelosi wouldn't have just called their bluff and say, okay, you can be responsible for freezing the Democratic House. Good luck.
Just like the Republicans have no problem.
But they have a different constituency, don't they? Republicans have Republican constituency.
I think that we have a constituency that wants that kind of fight to be activated as well. But the Democratic Party.
That's another thing that Brie is doing here. She says, 75% of Americans don't like Nancy Pelosi. That's correct. A lot of people I know that don't vote or don't, like, they vote but they don't really pay. Yeah, they hate Nancy Pelosi. A lot of people, if they ever get polled, they'll just say, I hate everyone, because most people hate everyone. Congress has like an 18% approval rating, right? So no one likes any of these people. The idea that that's like some almighty cheat code. It's like, I present to you 75% of Americans don't like Nancy Pelosi, and that means Medicare for all, baby. Like, that's not... There's nothing there. That doesn't mean anything. So, and Brie does this a lot. She loves to cite polls and then, like, make wild, like, bizarre claims about them that, like, require, like, several degrees of, like, extrapolation that is extremely imaginative. And so I just, like, again, this is another example of that.
He doesn't court them. We talk constantly on the...
And my point being at the end there is that Nancy Pelosi is, like, the people that are in charge of whether or not she has power are not random Republican farmers in Kansas. Like, they're not like your friends and family over and wherever you're living or whatever. They are her constituents and those within the party. Like, those are the people that decide these things. Like, someone in Oklahoma saying, I hate Nancy Pelosi, that has no bearing on whether or not she's Speaker of the House. I'm sorry.
On the left, about there being 40 million people who don't vote, and all of these working class people who don't vote, and all of these working people, longtime labor families that used to be Democrats for generations, and now they went ahead and voted for Trump, the Obama to Trump, whatever. We talk about these people. And never once does it seem to occur to us that maybe if we acted with a little more tenacity, maybe if we acted like we were fighting for people in the way that people thought Donald Trump was, the way he presented himself as being, that we could actually grow our ranks, that we could have more persuasive power, that doing the same thing we've been doing for the last 30 years of neoliberalism ain't it.
I agree, but I just don't think that holding up a vote for a vote that's going to lose in the House.
No, Sam, stop. In this scenario, I'm asking you to design your perfect ask. It can be anything you want. Ask for anything.
That would be worth the thing. I mean, I can tell you what I think would be the good ask, but what I cannot tell you is exactly how I would assess if I was one of those members of Congress, what the chances that Nancy Pelosi,
So I just want to say, like, Sam is really ruining the clippable moments. And I, like, do not, like, envy the position of whoever has to edit Majority Report clips and post them on YouTube. Sam is really bad at clippable moments. Like, Brie just went on that, like, passionate, like, you know, rant about people need Medicare for all, and she's like, how do I clip this? This is going to be great. And then Sam starts speaking, and then he's, like, going off on a long, like, thought experiment again. He's given all of his, like, you know, but-fors and all that shit, and he just ruined Brie's clip. Can you believe it?
No, look, I don't know. But it's not inconceivable to me that there was an attempt to leverage more, and Nancy Pelosi goes, "Go fuck yourself."
Right, but it's
you
not.
You want to be out there? Good luck with what's going on out there.
You're not doing it, and until you publicly withhold the vote. Like the point of this, the force the vote is not some backroom deal that they always are doing and always negotiating. The whole persuasive value of force the vote is that they publicly humiliate Nancy Pelosi by not voting for her.
Your perception is that they're going to humiliate Nancy Pelosi and not themselves.
Yes, they're going to. No, regardless of what happens to the squad, Nancy Pelosi is humiliated if it's a public knowledge that she wasn't able to secure a vote for Speaker after how many ever years that she's been in the seat. Because a bunch of upstart squad members declined to vote for her. That is a huge story. That's huge.
It's going to be impossible for.
So she's saying that that's an objective reality, not the squad, the radical socialist squad, is obstructing the Speaker of the House from passing the COVID relief bill while an incoming Democratic president. Like, you don't think Joe Biden would go out there and condemn the squad? You don't think the incoming president going out there and saying, wow, the squad are obstructing us getting COVID relief? You don't, like, that's too out of the question for you? Really? She is, again, now I think that she's lying. I don't think that she's legit this delusional, because if she is and she still managed to become Bernie's press secretary while being this delusional, that, you know, that's an indictment on everyone there, right? But I feel like she's playing this. This is a game to her. She knows that she's saying a bunch of bullshit, but she's doing it anyway.
For the Democratic establishment to alienate Democrats from figures like Cory Bush and AOC or
hang on about that. I don't think the Democratic establishment can afford, if properly organized, can afford to alienate its own base any more than the Republican establishment can afford to alienate its own base.
Do that, but I mean, you know.
Can someone actually do this for me and look at bad faith clips on their podcast or on their Twitter or whatever? Like, how do they edit their clips? Did they actually like end the clips when Brie stops speaking? Is that actually something that they do? Because I don't watch their. Whenever I do watch the clips, I always notice that they have that very selective editing, right? But like, if someone could go out there and just do a little bit of science, I would appreciate it.
Go from celebrating, look at our diversity, and look at the first openly gay elected, blah blah blah. They can't go from all of that to the next day. Remember the timing of all of this. We won Georgia. Look at Mondaire Jones and look at Ossoff and Warnock. They can't turn from that and suddenly be like, yes. The two Muslim squad members, all these black and brown people, women, hashtag leave us.
They literally did it in 2019. They passed H.R. 1. As Sam outlined earlier, they passed H.R. 1 and then immediately went on the offensive and talked about how Ilhan Omar was anti-Semitic. And then Donald Trump had a rally where everyone screamed, send them back. They literally did that 2 years ago. So what Brianna Joy Gray is saying, that when these members of Congress were less popular, they were destroyed. They were still really popular, but they were slightly less popular. So they were destroyed. So now because like AOC gained an extra 1 million Twitter followers, all of a sudden that's her shield. I'm sorry, but this is just, it's fantastical.
The Democrats have set themselves themselves up because they built this edifice of identity politics and how wonderful all these young new upstarts are because they're good for the Democratic Party brand. They cannot execute a pivot that fast to try to tell us that at the same time they're all horrible. At the same time, they're doing it in defense of someone as reviled as
They
Nancy
wouldn't be just
Pelosi.
saying it. No, they would be saying they are holding up the.
This is a great comment from Soul Rebel. In politics, you always have to have a plan B. You also have to position yourself to get the best deal possible. Nothing is A or B. Again, yeah, these are like bizarre binaries that they're that Brie and Jimmy and all those folks are trying to present. It's force the vote or nothing. It's force the vote or nothing. It's like, what?
Seating of Nancy Pelosi, of a Democrat, as Speaker of the House, and for what?
I'm glad you asked that because here's a part of it. I really wish we could have been having these kind of conversations before force the vote. I'm not saying that to you, but I wish that this had been where we landed because these are strategic concerns I think are so important. I think it was important for the squad to come, or whoever progressives got involved in this, to pick a substitute for Nancy Pelosi that made Democrats look bad if they rejected them. Now, I know Barbara Lee said that she didn't want to do it. But I don't really care. Optically, I think the Force the Vote campaign should have done this too, in retrospect. Just say it's Barbara Lee. Because look at the context.
Yeah, maybe Jimmy Dore coming up with this idea in 2 weeks was not a good idea. Maybe you should have been thinking about it for longer than 2 weeks. Hey!
That we're in. First of all, Barbara Lee's a black woman. She's a progressive. She's very well esteemed. She has seniority. Additionally, we just came off.
Yeah, can we get people to vote for someone that has said themselves they don't want to be in the running? What? How...
At the same time as Force the Vote was percolating, this leaked tape of Joe Biden being openly hostile and disrespectful to every single member of every leader of a black, whatever you call it, rights group in the country, right? Just openly contemptuous.
Every leader of the black, whatever you call it. Can we watch that at 1.0? I really I'm sorry. I know. I'm just teasing here.
We just came off at the same time as Force the Vote was percolating this leaked tape of Joe Biden being openly hostile and disrespectful to every single member of every leader of a black, whatever you call it, rights.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
But every leader of a black, whatever you call it, rights group in the country, right? Just openly contemptuous of them. So there's a world where you could have gotten a lot of black punditry and maybe even some black political figures also behind you on this and done some solidaristic outreach to the Black Lives Matter community and other criminal justice advocate groups to say, this is retribution. You have to give us this. The Democratic Party has disrespected and looked down on black people for so long, including in this moment. We need a new Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi plans to retire.
Yeah, Brianna, that's great and all. But remind me, how did the Bernie Sanders campaign do in South Carolina?
Anyway, why can't we have a leader like Barbara Lee?
What if Barbara Lee says, I don't want it?
But then they have to make an argument for why it shouldn't be someone who is more diverse and more progressive instead of playing this game that they always play with Nancy Pelosi, which is because she's a woman. Anything against her is an attack.
What if Barbara Lee came out and said, I don't want it?
She might.
Well, there's your argument as to why it shouldn't be Barbara Lee.
Right, but Barbara Lee
that was the problem we had in 2018, right? I mean,
imagine this.
She dropped out of the race, essentially, and there was nobody to vote for.
Barbara Lee does an interview. First of all, it could be one of the members of the squad if they're really committed to this plan, and it should be. But whomever. I mean, they're all black and brown, too. But
it would be a tell that they should be Speaker of the House in their first year of...
Who cares?
I mean,
let's have a public conversation about whether or not we should just follow blindly norms, or whether...
You see what Brie just said there? Like, Sam is tearing down... She's trying to get on a clip. Brie is trying to get a clip done. She's trying to get that shit on Twitter as soon as the show's over. And Sam just says a couple words, destroys her whole thing, and she's like, who cares? Whatever. Who cares? Sure, you just destroyed my whole argument, but whatever.
And it should be. But whomever. I mean, they're all black and brown, too. But
it would be a tell that they should be Speaker of the House in their first year of...
Who cares?
I also love how Sam says that while grinning, and he's just like, he knows that this is just ludicrous, right? And Brianna is just like, no, I need to get the clip. I must get the clip. Virgil, get the timestamp down.
But
it would be a tell that they should be Speaker of the House in their first year of...
Who cares?
I mean,
let's have a public conversation about whether or not we should just follow blindly norms, or whether we should live in a world where people who actually represent the interest and the policy goals of the majority of Americans should be in a leadership position.
But I mean, listen, I think that there is. I think it's an interesting conversation.
I doubt it was Brie's fault the Bernie campaign collapsed. Is it Brie's fault? No. Did she play a part in the Bernie campaign collapsing? Absolutely. She was the press secretary. You're telling me she didn't have a vital, crucial role? Like, I could totally see a world where Brie was not there and they had a different press secretary and were managed to win or get over the finish line. I could see that. I could also see a world where Brie was in the press secretary position and they still won anyway because of a number of different decision makings, or decisions that they made or staff. So I don't know if she was the make it or break it, but she definitely contributed. To say that she didn't contribute, I'm not to say that you're saying that, but I'm saying like she was definitely a contributing factor.
We're talking about a general theory about this.
Isn't that our job, Sam? What else do we have to do?
I do.
Virgil, hit the vape for a timestamp.
I think this is very valuable, this exchange. And I guess I think like there are institutional things. You know, it's sort of
It's like playing chess with a pigeon. Brie will knock the pieces over and take a shit on the board and brag to all
the you know, Machiavelli's, if you come for the king, or in this case the queen, make sure you take her out. And because and you know, the strategy of trying to or else.
What happens, because I've asked this several times now. What happens to them?
I mean,
if
look,
they lose?
I haven't you know, I haven't worked in Congress, so I don't have enough of awareness institutionally, but it's about resources that you can have access to.
I love how like Brie just brings up a random YouTube comment. None, like in all caps, none congresswoman. Like I'm just reading this and like, you know, that picture of Trump yelling at the kid with the lawnmower on the front lawn or whatever. I'm reading it in this tone. So have like, go to Google Images, pull up that picture, right? And then just listen to me say this. Non-congresswoman, non-congressman/woman can be speaker. Why is that comment on screen? Like why is Brie bringing up Scott? Scott. Wait, hold the phone, Sam Seder. Hold the phone. We got Scott. We got Scott on the line. Hold the phone.
In terms of money, in terms of staff, it could be committee positions. It could be you get an opportunity to introduce some amendments that, or you could get maybe some appropriations to go to your district because maybe you need to build a community center. I mean, there's a lot of books that outline the sort of transactional nature of these.
I'm not saying that Brie was a big part of the loss. I'm just saying that they lost. That is objectively true. And that Brie was one of, if not the biggest public face of the Bernie campaign. Now, am I saying that it's all her fault? No. It's totally possible they could have had someone way better than Brie and lost anyway. And I think that that's very likely. But it's also, like, I can see a scenario where they won with Brianna Joy Gray if she just made some different moves or if everyone else made some different moves. I have a lot of problems with the hires that Bernie made in general, not just Brie. I just want that to be understood. I'm not trying to, like, pin everything on Brie or anything. I'm just saying she does not have the credentials that she thinks she does. She was operating with the front runner, the person who won the first 3 primaries going into South Carolina. They knew that South Carolina would be difficult to win. They knew it. They knew this since 2016. Bernie got wiped out 4 years ago. They knew South Carolina was the biggest hurdle. And they didn't do much about it. And that's the problem with the whole campaign. But again, when you've got the momentum of winning the first 3 states and the press secretary is talking about Castro all week, you're talking about Castro. You just won the first 3 primaries and y'all motherfuckers are talking about Castro. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just saying it could have been done better. That's all I'm saying.
Things that are steered from us.
A couple of them on the shelf.
Of course. So you recognize that there could be for Congress people who want to get reelected, who want to be able to deliver material benefits for their constituents, or maybe some of them, are like they want to be the person who gets out in front of the cameras. Whatever it is, there's no doubt that leadership has. We don't know.
We don't know what the consequences are.
I love how like this comment is just on screen. It's just on screen. And again, this goes $35,000 a month, and they can't just like pop the comment on, read it, and pop it off. Like, why is this on screen? Why are the webcams so small?
Everyone is so willing to say we can't do this because the consequences are so high. And I'm sorry, you cannot make that argument if you can't even you can't even like put together a little bit of a cogent argument about.
It depends.
What's important is I said as part of the act.
No. I gotta get my clip. Whoa, that's a freeze frame and a half right there. Holy shit. Wow. Someone, like, I'm just saying, that's an image that you can do something with that image. Wow. Interesting.
Ask. That's why I started with the ask. You can ask to warrant.
I'm sorry. I just love pausing a screen and then seeing someone do wacky faces. I know a lot of people, you can do that with me at any point. Like, look at this. All right, that was a wacky face, right? I'm not trying to like make fun of her physical appearance. I want to be very clear. It's just, people make funny faces sometimes, and with video, when you pause at random times, it can be interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Any of those possibilities down the line. If you think you're going to lose committee appointments, make committee appointments part of your ask. If you think you're going to lose out funding to your district, stipulate that you're only going to get this vote if you get commensurate funding with what you got last year or whatever you asked for. The sky is the limit, and if you don't get it, then you just say, I'm going to dethrone Nancy Pelosi and put someone in.
Now, again, she's making the same argument now, again, that Nico House made to me a week ago or so, about that they have unlimited power and they can ask for whatever they want, and then they can just not vote for Nancy Pelosi, and then that's it. Whatever happens after that, I don't know. Whatever. That's going to happen. I'm going to cover it on my podcast. I'm going to do 1 or maybe 2 episodes on my podcast about it. And then it's going to fail. And then what?
in her place with less power. Because let's talk about why Nancy Pelosi has the power she has. It's not just because she's been there a long time. It's because other people owe her favors because she's the most powerful fundraiser in Congress. So
Well,
whoever
it's
she's
not just
replaced
that.
with, whoever she's replaced with is not going to be as powerful.
The HEROES
and
Act.
is not going to be able to do as much harm also.
The HEROES Act, for instance, one of the big criticisms of the HEROES Act, where she had the opportunity to negotiate and maybe get a skinnier package over the course of the summer, maybe that $1.8 trillion thing, right? Part of it, I think they were afraid that if they passed that $1.8 trillion deal with the Trump administration, that Trump might win the presidency. It's not inconceivable, actually. I mean, he didn't lose by very much. But
I just want to say, look at Brie's eyes, and again. I know that's a weird way to start something, but look at Brie's eyeballs as soon as Sam starts really getting into this. Now again, I've done this in debates, and I'm trying to say I've done this in conversations. I'll sometimes check speaking, and then I'll sometimes look at my phone when the other person. But I want you to look. So she's gonna switch comments. Look at her eyes. She is not paying attention to what Sam has to say. I'm just saying, I know. She's literally reading comments just in one ear out the other for Sam Seder, what he's saying, right? And then she's just putting comments on the screen that she agrees with. That's what she's doing. I'm sorry. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. That's what she's doing. She's just ignoring. She's going off on a rant. And then as soon as she stops, she's reading the chat and saying, who agrees with me? All right, you. And then ignoring what the other person's saying. And then as soon as they stop talking, and then they just start talking again. It's bizarre. Again, if you're going to do that, which is fine. If you're just going to read the chat and, ignore the other person, that's fine. But don't post the chat messages on screen so we can see how you're just ignoring everyone else. That's just a little bit of a weird thing to do. It's what a weirdo would do.
part of it, I think they were afraid.
Look at her eyes.
They passed that $1.8 trillion deal with the Trump administration, that Trump might win the presidency. It's not inconceivable, actually.
Right.
I mean, he didn't lose by very much.
And then now what is the comment that was selected? It was a one Tony Smith. All right. Committee positions. Whoa! Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. That's totally not Brie on an alternate account, by the way. WTF are you talking about? Bernie Sanders got robbed twice right in front of our eyes, and you're misspelled, obviously. Talking about committee positions! Exclamation point! So not only is Brianna Joy Gray scrolling the chat room, saying, which, that agrees with me, that agrees with me. Okay. Not only is she doing that, this is the comment she chooses. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Come on. Are you serious? And you're telling me she's a serious... Oh, she is super serious. Oh, she's totally not in this for money. What?
But another reason why, and I think if you go back and look at the way that she defended the HEROES Act, it was a wish list for her committee chairs. And her committee chairs all have their constituents as well. And I'm talking within Congress, right? And so she is delivering by putting these things in there. Her committee chairs can go back to their voters and say, I fought for, the easement on the river that everybody's talking about in my district. And that was in there. And that's why all these things were sort of larded up with stuff that was basically a laundry list of stuff. And the committee chairs can dole those things out, which are, essentially currency to the members.
I love how she's just ignoring the fact that she just put up on the screen. That's just on the screen. Some dumb fuck comment is just on this screen.
Of their committees, and they can bring those home to their districts and say, I fought for this, or I got this. And so there are machinations, I think, within Congress that, yes, I can't sit here and tell you definitively what the price would be for these individuals. And I think to a certain extent, you don't know, right? You don't know down the road what you're going to need in terms of favors from different people. And the question is just simply you weigh it, what the cost-benefit analysis is. And I think, I am inclined to give leeway to people who I think are closest to my political disposition in Congress, more leeway to them than I would others.
Why did Pelosi ever do anything the squad wants? Why should she ever listen to the squad?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they have the power to make her do what they want. There may be things that she needs from them at times. Will you go out and campaign for this in these areas amongst these people? Yeah.
Again, I just look at the comments she's putting on the screen. It's just all gobbledygook. There's a reason folks further left of the squad find the idea of incrementalism and reform a joke. They don't last without a revolution pushing them. What? A revolution pushing them? What does that mean? Who said this? It actually wasn't it Brie? It was someone, y'all that have been here with me since the People's Party town hall. Remember that disaster? Wasn't it Brianna Joy Gray that referred to the People's Party and the Jimmy Dore show as the vanguard of the left? I'm pretty sure she said that. Didn't she? Or was it her or was it Katie Halper? I want to say it was Brianna Joy Gray. Someone, like, verify that for me, please. Like, I'm pretty sure. But I remember one of those two saying that the Jimmy Dore show was the vanguard of the left. The vanguard. What that means is, like, the revolutionary people that, like, defend, like, the poor and working class from, like, you know, whatever. That's what that means, basically. I'm not a fucking, you know, that's not my lane, but... And so this person in the chat room is saying they don't last without a revolution pushing them. So, okay, we're going to revolt against the government, and then we're going to keep the 4 people in the squad that are in the government. We're not going to, like, destroy the whole government and start over. No, okay, so we're going to have a revolution, and in that revolution, we're just going to make sure that no one is mean to AOC on cable news. Like, what? And Brianna Joy Gray just pops that on screen. No context, just some dumb shit. Whoop.
Yes, I will. Will you give me this? Okay. I mean, I would imagine there's some...
It was her. I watched you rewind and see her say it. I specifically stopped the video and put it back to make sure. Okay, thank you. But yeah, again, these people have main character syndrome. They think that they're way more important than they actually are.
Type of transactional stuff that happens along those lines as well. And you can sour relationships so that that's not possible. You can maintain relationships so there's an opportunity there. I mean, you know, this is...
When we say relationships, I just want to be clear because you and I both understand that things don't happen in Congress because people are nice or say something nice publicly about them.
I'm not saying nice.
I know. I said you and I both understand this. We're in agreement. I'm not patronizing. I know you know this very, very well.
At the end of this line, can we go to questions?
Sure. That it's not about whether or not...
You know, Virgil's like, please. You know that meme that, you know, like of the person with all the wrinkles, like the 4chan styled meme where it's like, healthcare, please, right? Like, you know that one? That's Virgil. Like, can we just get this over with? Like, someone get, like, you know, like, someone get that for me. And that's what Virgil is right here. Like, get a screenshot of this, right? And then just, like, replace that at the bottom with, like, the fucking picture or whatever. And I don't know. Do something with that.
Get a vote.
Whether someone's nice or not, it's about power. And so a lot of people in the course of this have been saying to me, Brianna, you're a dumb moron who doesn't understand what power is. I just like to take this moment to say there have been a lot of really ugly, hateful, personal things said about me that have offended me much more than anything Jimmy Dore has said, some of which by people who are in your employ, some of which are people, and I don't hold you responsible.
So... Sure, I mean, if someone is saying really bad things about Brie, that shouldn't be a thing. That should not be what we deal with. I can tell you again, from Brianna Joy Gray fans and from Jimmy Dore fans, I have gotten death threats. I have gotten many transphobic slurs thrown at me. I've gotten people saying that the only thing I'm useful for is for my looks and stuff like that. You know, misogynistic, very garbage stuff from Brianna Joy Gray and Jimmy Dore fans. So, and I'm someone with 8,000 YouTube subscribers. So I can only imagine what someone with 300,000, you know, like followers would get. So again, that shouldn't be the situation we're in. But at the same time, like, I'm sorry to act like Sam is at fault for that. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It's really, really ludicrous.
For them because I think that's silly.
And I just want to say, like, for the record, I don't mind if someone compliments my looks. I just, you know, you have to understand I'm also very smart. Like, both of those things.
I would like to say that I don't want to make this argument about that. And I think that we can all have the self-control to not be petty and personal. But I have been told that I just don't understand how power works. And I think it's quite the opposite. I know that power doesn't work by saying nice things about Nancy Pelosi in public. But at the end of the day, she doesn't owe you anything in private. But the squad will go and campaign for whoever the hell Nancy Pelosi tells them to campaign for because Nancy Pelosi is powerful and the squad is weak. And that's always going to be the case because Nancy Pelosi has spent decades being a fundraising power horse and the squad hasn't. But in this instance, because of the
squad is almost at the point where they can out fundraise Nancy Pelosi. Like, that, I think, should be the main goal of the squad's movement, is to get consistent and steady fundraising that out fundraises the corporate donors. Bernie Sanders got the most, Brie should know this, Bernie Sanders got the most money out of all the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates. We need to recreate that in Congress. So that's my opinion.
Procedural quirk and the narrow margin in the House, they had legitimate power. And I don't care what they did with it. I don't care if it was forced vote. I don't care if it was something else. Okay. But my primary concern is that they chose not to.
Is Ben Dixon employed by Sam Seder? Because I think she said the E word, employed. I thought Ben just went on the show every, like, you know, month or two. I didn't know that Ben was getting paid by Sam. And if that's the case, can I get paid by Nomiki? Because I was on Nomiki's show. And so if Sam pays people for being on his show, where's my paycheck? That's what I want to know.
to use it, despite the fact that there has been a very, I think, poor articulation of what they would lose in doing so.
Well, AOC has, in fact, actually not gone out and campaigned for people to Pelosi, and they've been on opposite sides of this in multiple situations over the course of the past cycle. I mean, do you think Nancy Pelosi was in favor of AOC, of the squad promoting, getting rid of Elliot Engel?
I think they're doing a little dance around each other, but push comes to shove. Nancy Pelosi can make anybody.
Okay, so Brie's argument is they can't go against Nancy Pelosi. And then Sam's like, oh, well, they did that. And now Brie is like, oh, well, whatever. So that's what she's saying. Okay, whatever.
They do what she wants them to do. And she's pulling up, she's picking her battles and pulling her punches as well.
I think AOC has, in terms of like leading primaries and helping fund primaries and raise money for challengers.
The critique of Brianna Joy Gray is that she doesn't understand power, and that is 100% correct. I agree with that. She definitely does not understand power, and I want to play a clip here that is very relevant to this situation.
And by the way, I don't think that's some grand conspiracy. I think this is sort of what power is. I mean this at a sort of high level.
I just want to say, like, you can't see the clip here, but I'm sorry, I tapped the mic, but in this clip, Dave Rubin is literally like doing this with his hands. Like,
power is. I mean this at a sort of high level.
Look, the DCCC blacklisted any organization that was supposedly.
I'm well
aware. So, I mean, I'm not convinced that.
I'm aware of that thing that just totally cuts against my entire argument. Yes,
of that.
I'm
of that premise. And I think that's where she's chose to expand her power. My experience in institutions, my experience has been slightly different than that. Now, it's not Congress, so maybe Congress operates under different.
Ben Dixon was trying to insinuate Bernie perpetuates white supremacy and was prejudiced in his hirings. I would be very interested to see that clip. I don't necessarily disagree with that, because again, they knew South Carolina was going to be a big issue. They knew that was the quote unquote firewall. They had 4 years to prepare for South Carolina and Super Tuesday. And I was in South Carolina. I was in a carpool down to South Carolina, and I campaigned with them. I was canvassing and doing a bunch of, campaign stuff for there was 4 days or so. And so I know firsthand from how kind of disjointed, when I went to the campaign office in South Carolina and I spoke with all the people in South Carolina, and they're all great people. They're wonderful people. But, there was a little bit of, an awkward, we don't know what to do with you, moment where it's we showed up, we had coordinated with them ahead of time, and they're like, go to this other office a couple miles away. They might have something for you. And then we went to this other office a couple miles away, and there was 2 people there. And then they were like, I'll find something. And then we in total were waiting before we got on our canvassing, probably for 2, maybe 3 hours. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But again, they had 4 years to prepare for that situation. So, I mean, I'm just saying. Now, would I go as far as to say he perpetuates white supremacy? No, I would not. But would I say that he made bad hiring decisions? Yes, I would. And Brianna Joy Gray was one of them. Now, there's plenty of others, but, there's plenty of good hires, there's plenty of bad hires. But it's also, again, South Carolina was a very obvious problem. They didn't even try. Jim Clyburn said openly that they didn't even try, Bernie didn't even try to get him on the phone. Jim and Bernie didn't really have a conversation leading up to the South Carolina primary. And that's a huge problem. So if that's what Ben Dixon's trying to say, then I agree. But if he goes further than that, I would like to see the clip. But that's my take on the situation.
Rules in other institutions. But my experience is that you can, there are thresholds where you can alienate yourself. You can be a rival of someone, and you can alienate yourself so much that you're not able to even make negotiations that are in your mutual best interests. People are people, and sometimes emotions override what their rational assessments are of what they're going to get out of a certain situation. And politicians do that, too. I mean, I think they tend to be more calculating and sociopathic than your average person.
Yeah, Clyburn was not going to endorse Bernie, but I mean, Bernie could have got him on the phone. Bernie could have got him on the phone and recorded the phone call and then tried to, there's a lot of plays that you could have made, but they didn't. And I'm just saying, they had 4 years, 4 long years to come up with something, and they just didn't. And I find that to be one of the biggest problems with the Bernie campaign this time around. No, Ben is not employed. I'm pretty sure Brie said the E word, employed, but I don't know.
But I think they do have some measure of like, man, I just hate that, MFer so much that in this instance, not going to do it.
I want to say that I have seen a lifetime of truly disgusting, despicable things said to my co-host, Brianna Gray. Like really ugly, insulting, and frankly, false things said to her. I think nobody else here can match the level of invective rancor that she receives.
Oh, thanks, Virgil.
In particular, women of color in this sort of like environment online.
No, it disgusts me. And but I will also say that, at a lesser level, I've seen a lot of rancor directed to Sam Seder. I've seen a lot of cruel and false things directed towards him. And frankly, a lot of those are true, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. And I've also seen a lot of frankly unacceptable comments about me and about what I do or do not put into my lungs, and it's unacceptable. And frankly, this is why I need the power to ban people from the chat, because I'm seeing a lot of comments that are unacceptable. And like something has to happen.
I can only imagine. I just want to say, like, I love that this is all happening and Virgil's making some funny jokes while this dumb comments on the screen. Like, can we talk? Like they're mocking the chat for being rude or whatever. And sure, the chat might have been a little rude. Meanwhile, Brianna Joy Gray was literally just getting like comments like on screen of like, WTF is wrong with you, Sam? Are you done? Like, Brianna Joy Gray literally selected a comment that was basically attacking Sam Seder. And now she's laughing. And it's just, I just find that to be funny. I'm just sorry.
Happened there, friends. We've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I was hoping that we could take a few questions before we wrap. If that's good with you all, maybe some people want to apologize for some of the rude statements they have made about me or my moderation abilities. We could hear those, and we could decide whether or not to accept their apology or ban them from the chat and from the show permanently.
You want to pick questions? Have you been pulling them out, Virgil?
I don't know how to pull them out. I think you're the only one with the ability to do that, because I can see the chat, but I can't interact with it.
Okay, so I think this confirms that Brie is the one selecting questions.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to just find things that are serious and not like this.
Okay, well, that's fine. No, that's good.
Look at these questions. Smoke dope all you want, Virgil.
Okay, no, that's good. No, let's keep these coming. These are good. These are good points to make. I mean, if you want to ask a direct question to Sam or Brie, you can do that too. But if you want to address me, this is the sort of thing you need to be saying.
I don't.
Okay.
That's the only real question I've seen so far. Everything else is like guillotines. I will never apologize to Virgil Texas. All right, I'm sorry, Sam. Like,
that person who said that.
What's this question? When is Sam going on tour?
Would you ever like just talk to each other?
I am waiting. I'm now on 4.5 years waiting for my promised invitation to come on his program. There's a history here, and if folks want to go and
I am now waiting 4.5 years. Can I just say I love Sam Seder. I just
see where this started. Like I say, I think you can Google Sam Seder, Jimmy Dore election debate in sometime. I think it was in July of 2016 or something. And it started out where I just seen some video of him on Aggressive Progressive that was centered around a segment they were talking about. The Supreme Court didn't matter. It's okay if Peter Thiel gets nominated to the Supreme Court. Everything's going to be great if we get Donald Trump. And I called up, I emailed Jimmy. And I said, listen, I'm going to talk about this clip tomorrow. Do you want to come on so that you can sit here and defend it? He's like, no, go to town. So I started to do the clip. He called in. Like I say, I take calls. He called in. I guess he was watching the show, and we had an exchange. That was the last that we've ever talked directly to each other.
All right, well, let's see if we can broker something here.
Now, I just want to say, meanwhile, so it's been 4.5 years. Let's look at Jimmy Dore's Twitter right now. Let's just look at the Twitter page. So you scroll down 10 hours ago, 3 weeks after Force the Vote, and the best argument opponents can come up with, which is a debunked lie. This is the part where Brie circulates a clip of taking him out of context and cutting him off. And then why does having an MSNBC contract equals lying about Medicare for All? So Sam Seder's not lying about Medicare for All. Sam Seder was talking about how the speakership election process worked and was cut off. That's what this clip is. Jimmy Dore says that, that being incorrect about how to vote for speakership means you're lying about Medicare for All? What? And so, Jimmy is literally, as of 10 hours ago, attacking Sam Seder on, a daily basis now? As of 10 hours ago. Meanwhile, it's been 4.5 years since Jimmy has decided to not be a beta cuck little fucking loser. So I just think that's funny. I just think that that's really funny. Jimmy Dore is a fucking cuck. We need to what is after beta? What is it, gamma? Fucking Jimmy Dore is a gamma male. The guy is fucking low T, motherfucker. I'm telling you that.
Very funny.
We are the Peacemaker show.
What about this question on the screen from Marco Beast? BJ.
Sam, hypothetically, if your enthusiastic endorsement of Force the Vote would make the squad do it, would you have done it? Why or why not? If I had the ability to make them do it, I think, to be honest with you, I don't know if I wouldn't have done it for that ask. It's conceivable to me that I I might have forced them if it was for something that I felt was more, like I say, more structurally functional.
JL $5 hashtag show door the door. I would love to.
I mean, some of the ideas that Sirota had, I thought
I would also like to show door a moon crashing into Lake Michigan.
were pretty good. I don't know. Maybe. I can answer this question too. That's incorrect.
That was more of a comment than a question.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was a question there. Nobody's putting punctuation, so it's very difficult to tell.
God, okay.
Brie,
I'm trying.
Are you popping these up onto the screen? How does this work?
Yeah, I'm like looking through all of them, and I can like push them over.
So do you have an interface up there where you're actually like doing the camera thing, or is it?
Well, I can switch the boxes around. Sorry, I didn't mean to click on this. This was
So do you think the car analogy is really appropriate? It's not Jimmy Dore who's driving the car. It's AOC who's behind the wheel and deciding whether to step on the brake. No, I
That's not
disagree.
a good analogy either.
Did you put this up there, Virgil?
What? No, I am not doing anything.
I swear I didn't click on this. I don't even see it right now.
Have we been hacked?
I do think that the car.
35,000, not 100, not 35,000 a year. $35,000. In fact, let me just bring up the Patreon right now. What do they got? I'm just going off of numbers from like a month ago. Last time I checked. Let's look at their Patreon right now. Oh, they went down a little bit. Oh shit. Instead of making 35,000, now they're making 34,829. Oh damn. Little bit, double. Yo, I got some Patreon questions. I'm sorry if people send me messages on Patreon and I don't even know. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be a bitch. I'm so sorry.
Car analogy is really appropriate.
I will look at the questions immediately after the stream. I swear to you. I'll leave the tab open.
Hack my course of vote types. The Jimmy Dore web crew, have they logged on and taken control of our chat room? I mean, with the car analogies, whatever. I mean, okay, fine. Your car analogy is great, Sam. But I'm saying this one isn't great. I don't like this.
I think that the analogy that in your analogy, Sam, that if Jimmy Dore is driving the car, I'm saying fine, then replace Jimmy Dore, drive a different car. But I feel as though you're throwing out the car. You're saying cars are bad. Nobody should ever drive.
Listen, I'm not saying in this moment the opportunity to I mean, there was an attempt, right? I mean, it wasn't like early on there weren't other people who were coming out and saying I think we should.
You're going to become a patron. Please give me money on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's actually like up there too. I've got like a bunch of shit. If you give me money on PayPal, friends and family, no fees. Also, you can't get refunds, so throw that in there.
Do different asks, and they got they were just submerged in.
Well, not quite, Sam. I mean, what happened? And Sirota was one too. And I love Sirota, but I told him this also on his show, on his podcast. The problem wasn't that he was saying here's some other asks. The problem is that he kept calling the floor vote aspect of it performative and being somewhat dismissive of it in his language. And when I put it to him that way, he's like, yeah, sure, fine, you're right. And then we were all be able to talk collaboratively about.
Though again, it literally is performative. If you are baking into the critique that it can't pass and that it's all about the media narrative, then it is definitionally performative. And now, performative isn't necessarily a bad thing. But Brie is like, oh, how dare you call this performative? And then also, like, oh yeah, of course it won't pass. Like, what?
Doing all of these things in tandem, because I personally think that the spectacle that comes with the floor vote is an important component of it, at the same time that the substantive asks that he offered are also deeply important.
I mean, I think that the floor vote wouldn't have the impact that you think it would have. And look, I
Bad Faith hitting 35K immediately after it launched and not seeing much growth since then makes me wonder if there's some shady funding going on. I know, okay, I have mentioned that before as well, just in general, that again, and I don't want to be too long-winded here because we're almost done. I know, right? But in general, I, again, am in this space. I get super chats, I get PayPal donations, I get, Patreon subscriptions. I can literally tell you, I don't know where the money's coming from. I don't. I would assume that all of y'all are great, but there's some people that have sent me money, that have said like, I love the show. I've been listening for a couple months. I love the show. Here's some money, but I don't post in chat. I don't know where that money is coming from. Like let's just say hypothetically, you give me $10,000. Right? And you'll let's say you pay me whatever as a salary and my job is I get $10,000, fuck it, 100,000, right? And my job is to fuck up left-wing media on YouTube. I guarantee you, with just 10,000, maybe 100,000 bucks, could fuck up left media on YouTube. I guarantee it. I would do exactly what's been going on right here. Right? So I'm just saying, if I know how this stuff works and how shady it is, I guarantee you these people know, and there's a reason why I'm transparent with my money. There's a reason why I tell you that, again, I'm only doing the stream because I can maybe get paid during it, and I'm going to be honest with that, right? But is it possible that they just got all that money from the Chapo Trap House donor list or whatever? Sure. It's possible that they got $35,000 extra a year from their Chapo Trap House email list. Sure. I don't watch Chapo Trap House. I don't know how popular they are. I don't know. Like, I know their Patreon has like 100K or something, which is like, where the fuck is that money going, right? But like, okay, and also where's that coming from? But also, but it's just interesting. Again, if it is true, and I don't have the numbers, but if it is true that they hit 35K and haven't grown in like 4 months, that definitely tells a story. Now, if they hit 30K and went up 5,000, like over the, like, that's like, you have to understand that's a lot of money. But if it is true that they have fluctuated within like $1,000 since they started, if that is true, then that's interesting. So I'm just saying. $2, Ian Kinzel. I told you, via Russian bots. Greetings.
Simply made an assessment that was like, at one point, that I didn't think that I don't see it as crucial as a moment in terms of leveraging power. I just don't think there's that much power
What
there.
about the 15 million people?
Yeah, reminder, when y'all get the $1,400 stimmy, when Joe gives me the money, where's the money, Joe? When Joe gives us the money, reminder, to give that money to me if you so choose. Reminder, friends and family on PayPal. Bada boom, baby. Just reminder, you're going to have a lot of money. What better way to stimulate the economy than to stimulate me? And feel free to take it out of context. As long as I get money, take whatever you want out of context.
People who just lost their health insurance.
Well, no, I understand that, but it's like that when you phrase it like that, it is the analogy I would draw to that was in 2011, people were saying we must get involved in Syria because people are dying in the civil war. Absolutely true. People are dying in the civil war, but there are moments where America does not have the ability to make things better.
Does have the ability to pass enact Medicare for all. We all just finished
but AOC and 5 people in the squad do not have the ability to pass Medicare for all right now. And the conflation of that, look,
they don't have the ability to pass Medicare for all, but they do have the ability
to force
to
a
make
losing vote that is supposedly going to bring about
force a public conversation about the fact that 15.
Again, yes, it is true that both of those things would happen. It is a public conversation and it would be a losing vote. The idea that Brie is going to be like, no, it's about forcing a conversation. Meanwhile, Jimmy Dore and Nico House are saying, it will pass, right? So it's just weird. It's just really strange. I wish Sam would let you come on. I would love to go on. But I would also, like, if Sam Seder's doing 3-hour podcasts with, like, a show called Bad Faith, like, let's be real here. Sam Seder dedicated 3 hours of his apparently busy life. Apparently he's got children or something. Right? And instead of, like, I don't know, taking time off to go watch some Parks and Recreation or something, you're telling me he takes 3 hours to talk to fucking Brianna Joy Gray? Why doesn't he come on my show? Come on, Sam. What the
People
hell?
just lost their health
Bernie
insurance.
Sanders
And you
is
never
the
hear about
most
it on
popular
TV.
politician in the country. He was running on Medicare for All was almost the I mean, you would know better than I, but it seems to me that was the sort of central focus of his run in 2020. And
15 million people hadn't just lost their health insurance when Bernie Sanders was running.
You got 30 million people without health insurance and Medicare for All. I mean,
the argument that I made, Sam, was that, yes, the last hearing didn't go as well as planned, but here's an argument that's available right now that wasn't available before and might not be available again.
That
no one can argue in this moment that people like their health insurance. That's the difference. No one can argue that if you like your insurance.
I didn't think people could argue that before either. And the fact is that 15 million people have lost their health insurance because of, and Joe Biden has a solution for that. It's a
because of what? No, finish the sentence. Because of what? 50 million people have lost their health insurance because.
I just want to say again, I'm just making, I'm just sarcastically making quips. I know, Erin, I thank you for holding me accountable. I know, but I'm just fucking around here.
Because of what?
Because of the pandemic.
Because they have employer-based health insurance. It's not because of the pandemic. All across the world, people are not losing their health insurance because there was a pandemic. It's happening in America because we're a cockamamie country. All
what you're saying was true before the pandemic too.
Country. I like that actually. That's pretty good.
It's happening in America because we're a cockamamie country. All
what you're saying was true before the pandemic too.
Right, and this illustrated it in a way that has never been as powerful before. If people would take this rhetorical opportunity, that's my argument.
To be honest, you know what the real shame is that Bernie Sanders.
When do I think Republicans went fascist? I mean, conservatives in the United States of America went fascist maybe in around 1775.
Sanders dropped out of the race way too early before he could make this argument, because what happened with the pandemic when it hit during the primaries was the fulfillment of what he had warned about for his entire political career. When he said we can't have a for-profit healthcare system.
Agree with Virgil here, by the way.
I agree, and I just am not convinced, as you are, that
that debate between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, where it was just them, remember, in the mid-March. There is an alternate universe where Bernie Sanders destroyed Joe Biden on the debate stage and became the president. I would love to go visit that alternate universe, but I mean, there's an alternate universe where Brie wasn't the press secretary and he, only lost South Carolina by like 4 points instead of 40. Sure, right? There's a lot of alternate universes out there. But I mean, like, I don't know. There's an alternate universe where the AOC forced the vote. I'm sure that's an alternate universe that Brie would love to go and visit, right? But, it's just...
The loss of 15 million people, we already had 30 million people who had no health insurance prior to the pandemic. I don't know if we're up to 45 now or 40. And Joe Biden has a solution for that, and so does Nancy Pelosi, and it is subsidized Cobra. And I'm just not convinced that that would happen. Maybe it would have. I'm not convinced that it wouldn't, but I'm not convinced that that those 5 people would have been able to create an environment where people who had run specifically on no Medicare for all a month earlier had just won their election, month and a half, running on no Medicare for all.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't think that what you think was going to happen would happen.
I hear that. I hear you. I hear that's where you're coming from. What about this question?
Does Sam think the squad should be more openly critical of the DNC and Biden? I don't know what their stance is about the DNC. I mean, you have you have somebody new there, but I think when Biden came out with the $1,400 AOC was like 2,000 means 2,000. I mean, I think Biden should get criticism for when he does stuff like if he was to, what was the Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. I think it should be situational. I don't think there should be a general criticism of Biden.
What about pressuring more directly over student debt cancellation?
Yes. Forming a commission to look into the matter of shutting down the child.
I personally think that if Chuck Schumer is on board with $50,000 of student debt cancellation, Joe Biden should be on board. If Chuck Schumer is on board with legalizing marijuana, which, by the way, Joe Biden could do with an executive order, then they should at least fulfill their campaign promise of decriminalizing marijuana. I'm waiting, Joe. I don't want to get arrested for smoking a blunt outside. I'm waiting, Joe. Come on, you said you'd decriminalize that shit. I'm waiting.
I mean, look, even like Chuck Schumer is promoting legislation. I mean, look, here's the...
Isn't that great? Like, wow, Sam Seder's really just reading my mind right there. Isn't that incredible? Let's play that again.
Commission to look into the matter of shutting down the child.
I mean, look, even like Chuck Schumer is promoting legislation. I mean, look, here's the thing.
Chuck Schumer wants $50,000 canceled, but not all of it canceled.
I mean,
there are meaningful distinctions between what these people are advocating for.
I understand. I think, if we were to get $50,000, people would get their student loan canceled up to $50,000. I think
the way you get $50,000 is to argue for it all, and then maybe the default position is Schumer, not to argue for Schumer, and then default to Biden's $10,000 for people making under $125,000 a year who do.
I think Schumer and Warren are trying. I think that's why they want 50 because they're going to end up doing 10 or 25.
50 is the real compromise.
Yeah,
the real position is eliminate it all and make higher education free to everyone. 50 is the compromise position, and nobody believes that it's going to be 50. But if we're 50, I would not look a gift horse in the mouth about it. If it's 10, I'm like, well, all right.
10 is like not even enough cumulative interest for all of the black.
I agree. I agree, and I think I think I've had, day and on, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times in the past 4 months to talk specifically about Biden's ability to do that. And, yesterday, I think I had him on, I don't know, I can't remember what day it is today. Maybe it was 2 days ago.
I love that Brie is literally, again, all the questions are oppositional against Sam Seder. Like, in a real Q&A, which this is not. Again, just like how when Brianna Joy Gray hosted the People's Party Town Hall, that's not a town hall, it was a podcast. But if this were a real Q&A, they would have questions like general questions that Brie and Sam would, be neutral and they would both respond to. Like, hey, y'all, what do y'all think? Like, if, they forced the vote in this way or you can ask general questions. No, all the questions are, Sam Seder, why did you betray me?
He's aware that there are people in the White House that they're aware that they know that everybody knows that he can do it. The same authority that he used on day 1 or day 2 to continue the moratorium on interest is exactly the same authority he could use to discharge the debt.
I got a question for yourself. So you mentioned earlier that you like to have people of a variety of views on your program, the Majority Report, which people can find at majorityreport.fm. Is that correct?
I think so.
Now, would you be amenable to having
Here we go.
someone like me on your show sometimes?
I tried it, and it was okay.
Well, did your listeners think it was just okay?
I mean, people were like, it's okay.
As a listener of the Majority Report, I will confirm that it was, in fact, just okay.
See, I vaguely remember some of your listeners like, oh, God, you need to have more guests like this on.
Yeah, you
need to have this fella.
Those guys stopped listening.
And they started listening to my show.
I think so. They're like, then they came back and they're like, we had enough.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm
all right, Virgil, if that question was sufficiently answered, there's one at the bottom of the screen, and I think we should let Sam go.
So now that I know the context, I covered this clip a couple days ago. Now that I know the context, this is way worse. Okay, so we're at 239.32. She has cycled through that, didn't bring it up. Barely brought that up. She cycled through a couple more questions, right? And didn't bring it up. Just put it on screen and didn't bring it up. And then all of a sudden, this comment about Sam's dead friend, all of a sudden, gotta bring it up. I gotta get a clip. Come on, Sam. We haven't had a clip in like 30 minutes. We gotta get a clip going on. Let's go. I'll show you clip.
He's been very generous with his time with us tonight.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Sam, a lot of the MR Extended Universe folks were against FTV, but several Michael Brooks guests, like Cornel West and Richard Wolff, were for it. Where do you think Michael would have landed? I can't say.
Also, again, Cornel West kind of has backtracked from this whole thing. He's definitely... I haven't seen Cornel West do anything about Force the Vote since January 3rd, because, again, it's over. The vote didn't get forced. It's done, right? So it's like, okay. And now, I don't know what Richard Wolff has said about it, but again, this question is bizarre to me, and it's just like the idea that Brie is like just putting comments on screen and just ignoring them, but then this one, she has to. Come on, we gotta.
I don't even know. I don't even know if it's appropriate to even make an assumption. I mean, I think I think Michael had. I don't know. I think he would have probably been inclined to be supportive, but I think also I know that Michael had a similar issue that I do with Jimmy, and I think that he would have seen that as being unhelpful. But I don't know.
I think he would have started off against it and then been persuaded for the reasons that you say. Like, I think.
Now, I just want to say, Brie is just ignoring whatever Sam said. You just ignored. Brie brought this up because she wanted to talk about Michael Brooks and say, yeah, I know your dead friend, who a lot of us adore equally. I think I personally would have changed his mind. It's just like such a bizarre fucking little bit here. It's like, yeah, I know he's not alive, but I want to say that on the show that he would have disagreed, and then I would have shown him the light. That's what she's about to say.
I think that he would have started off distrustful of it because of Jimmy. And because I had several people like this in my life who didn't like it, but then liked it after they read my article. And then I think throughout he would have tried to distance from Jimmy and been very critical of Jimmy. But I also think that Michael had this, we often agreed about the dumb left stuff. He thought that going for a party was dumb. He thought that all of that, maybe that kind of like withholding your vote was dumb. Like he didn't like those sorts of things. And this feels like that. It has that same kind of strategic valence. So it could go the other way. I thought about it a lot, and I'm not, nobody knows obviously, but I thought about it a lot.
I don't,
It's just such like embarrassing.
I'm uncomfortable, projecting out and using his legacy to, in that way.
Yeah, I gotta say the question puts a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest with you.
Okay, well.
Reminder, Brie is the one filtering the questions. Reminder. So she is like, oh, oops.
Talk about Nina Turner, implications of her time in Congress. She's not been there yet.
Implications of what it would mean if she were in Congress.
I think it would be great.
What would be different? Because in this scenario, right, we're talking about getting enough progressives. One more isn't going to change anything. So how do you convince people to get mobilized behind a candidate like this when it's just one more?
1/4 of 1% of the House of Representatives will be Nina Turner.
Well, I think I am of the mind that that success begets success, and that I think these things can be exponential. And so, yes, she's just one vote.
This might be the moment that's changed my opinion of Brianna Joy Gray from someone who's a useful idiot to someone who's actually a bad/malicious actor. Yeah, it's just really just disgusting. Again, and she's like filtering only comments that agree with her. And that's the other thing is I know if you go like, in fact, you know what? Let's just, scroll down. Oh God, a bad faith question. But, like, you can clearly see that there's a lot of comments that disagree. But, those are the ones she picks.
Right now, but she then becomes, part of hardening the Progressive Caucus. And I think it's, look, I am very sympathetic to the perspective that my view on these things is more incremental than people would want. I'm not preaching incrementalism, but maybe it's maybe I have a lack of imagination because of what I've been watching with amazement over the past 15, 16 years, and
Okay, so we have an actual good question brought up here. Let's see. I think Brie brought this up just to look like I know, right? I know. But, I feel like she brought this question up in bad faith. And let's see.
Professionally, and then prior to that, as an adult, I'm old. And I've said this on my program many times. In 2004, we had Gore Vidal, who come into the studio occasionally. And Gore Vidal, which is also makes everything old. But Gore Vidal would say, we talk about this concept of the United States of amnesia. I think that was the name of his book that he, at the time.
I like to think you hadn't invited him on. He just hadn't to hang out there.
It was awkward when he would walk into the studio, and we'd be like, wow, it's Gore Vidal. And then we'd be like, wow, it's weird. But he would have this concept of, people forget, people just have no sense of context. And I'm like, I don't get what you're saying. And now I do. And on some level. And it's like, from the difference between today and 16 years ago is so dramatic in some ways. In other ways, no. But there's and so I perceive the country had moved so far to the right and is in such I think it's so problematic that I think it's going to take a while before the left has some power. And by left, I'm using that loosely. I think, for some people's taste, what I think other people would perceive the left has even less. So.
I was going to let you go. I was going to answer this question because it's for me, but someone said something about they want to know your perspective on third parties. If that could be the last one, I just can't find it.
I am in favor of third parties on a more localized level. And I
Why
think
not nationally?
Because I think ultimately, but I think, I've seen the Green Party, and I was a Green Party voter in 2000. Admittedly, rudimentary online vote switch thing for people in Florida, it didn't work. But I've seen, I think that what ends up happening is like a lot of energy gets wasted. And third party would be if you were a third party and you had no expectations or ability to wage influence and wouldn't caucus, let's say with the Democrats or the Republicans, withholding, you could form, a functional sort of like parliamentary thing if you had maybe a Congress, like 4 Congress people or 2 senators or something. But I think presidential race, I think is ridiculous. I think, the WFP, I think there are some problems with it, but in some of the states, they're running, some pretty good candidates and running in some areas, some states, I can't remember if it's Pennsylvania or Connecticut, they're actual third party as opposed to a fusion party. I'm not against it, on principle, but I think that there's a lot of wasted energy and delusion about growing a third party on a national level. I think there should be focused, the Green Party, if instead of running candidates who were going to lose and not get the 5% and spending those millions of dollars, if they had focused on half a dozen congressional seats over the past 20 years, where they did some type of analysis where it's like, hey, this is a spot where we could actually take a Senate seat or half a dozen House seats across the country. They could really wield some actual power because, the way that they would be perceived would be different. And their expectations of what they do would be different. But instead, I've seen largely performative stuff that I think is useless.
So,
I agree with Sam for
have you had an experience with MDMA?
Yes. In fact, I think...
positive experience.
Some very positive experiences. It's been I'm quite sure, I've been told this, that I think...
positive experience. I'm trying to get Brie to highlight this question. Have you had an experience with MDMA?
Yes. In fact, I think...
positive experience.
Some very positive experiences. It's been I'm quite sure, I've been told this, that... I've been told that that Sarah Silverman has on multiple podcasts made a story of us taking MDMA together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So,
you have to Sarah to come on our show and tell me the story.
I feel like she's told that so many times.
Someone go find that.
You know how it works. You just have to keep telling it.
Keep telling it till fully, but that was also 30 years ago almost. So.
All right. Well, I have very different views on third parties, as does Richard Wolff, which you can hear on Thursday's episode of Bad Faith Podcast. And
as does Richard Wolff. By the way, go watch my podcast. Like, why don't you just answer the question? Hey, there's a question here. I'm not going to answer it. Go give me money on my Patreon so you can see.
You'll be able to hear more of on Monday's premium episode featuring the panel that Virgil described earlier with Bhaskar Sankara and Sean KB and David Dualde. In which we debate this very issue. I bring to them Richard Wolff's formulation, which is the point of the Green or any third party is not to win, but to capture enough votes that the Democratic Party has to move left and adopt some concessions the same way that happens in a parliamentary system in exchange for the Green Party candidate either dropping out or losing its voters organically. So we will continue that conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam.
Thank
you for having me, guys. I think this was constructive.
I think so too. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
I wasn't talking to you, but
you don't have to be talking. You don't have to be talking.
I don't really want to watch the rest of this. Like, I really don't. Really don't. I'm just gonna scroll through and see if there's anything interesting. But yeah, this debate was pretty much a disaster. Oh, now we're getting like a lightning round or something. Just kidding. There's no more. Brie, you're brilliant. That's how I felt about the discussion. Well, that's a great message. If anyone wants to call me brilliant, I'll try to put it on the screen too. I'm gonna be honest, I just don't like this podcast, so I'm not interested in what these two have to say. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm really not. Non-congresspersons are eligible for House speakership. Who's a good pick? I mean, that's just, I don't know. It's just, if you want to talk about it just to meme about, if you just if you're doing the thing, it's I'm gonna write Harambe on my ballot, and then you don't. But you just think of it's like a, one of those Twitter things, it's like, who are you going to write in for president? Wrong answers only. If you want to do that, sure. But Jimmy is an asshole, but he's entertaining and bold. That works. Well, clearly it doesn't work. Jimmy is an asshole, but he's entertaining and bold. No, it's not about stealing an election. It's about election integrity, whatever. And it works, apparently. I mean, it's failed every single time, but apparently it works. Why are the primaries run and rigged by Dems of Iowa? Blah, blah, blah. What are they doing here? Where am I? The location guessing game? Okay. I'm just scanning through this. This seems like a very good podcast, though. Does anyone have any questions? My door handle is brilliant. Is it? First of all, this is not my door handle. I don't live here. Second of all, thank you. Let me scroll up. This part of the stream should have been how the entire stream would have. Yeah. Whatever. I think you're brilliant, Andrea. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Andrea was excellent. Air guitar. I'm not sure what the air guitar is referencing. That might be a comedic tool that I'm unaware of. But thank you nonetheless. Andrea, you're a freaking genius. Thank you, thank you. If the Republican Party splinters, it would be an opportunity for third or fourth parties to gain some traction. Disagreed. Well, yes, I agree with that analysis. Me, personally, I would rather see the MAGA party or whatever. I would rather see them get snuffed out of politics altogether. I would rather see Democrats have one party control over everything and win every single race, and then the real elections just being in Democratic primaries. I think that is a more viable thing than building up a Green Party. But hey, I could be wrong, and I'm totally willing to be wrong. And, you know, the playing field could change. You know, anything can change at any point, and I reserve the right to reassess at any point. But that's my kind of current feeling. I just want really to get rid of Republicans. And just that kind of shit. This looks like a fun game, honestly. Who's that? Is that Jamie on the webcam? Probably popping in with something. I don't know. Also, isn't there a pandemic going on? How come all these podcasters are doing slumber parties? There's a pandemic going on, and all these podcasters are doing slumber parties all of a sudden, and I'm not invited? This is ridiculous. Anyway, that's it. Wow, that was a waste of my time. That was a waste of your time. Thank you for the money. Get grifted, motherfuckers. I'm doing an air guitar solo in your honor right now. Hell yes, thank you very much. Wouldn't it be nice to have a duopoly where the Dems are the conservative party? Yes. I think they are dating. I told you. Isn't... Okay. So that's why Virgil was getting loaded. Oh my god. Interesting. I would love to know more about the Jamie Virgil interactions. I'm not familiar with that lore. But yeah. Must be a weird situation for her, right? Isn't that interesting? I feel like Trump splitting Republicans into two parties is good and bad. I would hate if the Patriot Party ends up mainstream. Yeah, absolutely. But I think dividing them 30%, 70%, I think that's, you know, I think it's good enough for Democrats to take over a lot, personally. Jamie just got a divorce? Oh, really? Oh, shit. Well, whether or not she got a divorce, I mean, you know, that's her personal business. She seems way too cool for that dweeb. I mean, I agree, to be honest with you. I you know, that's like, you know, but what are you gonna do? Nah, jeez. I agree with that, but I mean, it's, you know, Mudjo. I want to be controlled. I love to control people. That's actually why I started this whole channel, is so that I can control people. Where we go one, we go all. Where's my money, Joe? Where's my money? Again, the regular show will be up at 10 a.m. Thank you for watching this extended cringe-a-thon. I really want to put this out there. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I really do love that I get 100 people that are willing to listen to me, like, watch a podcast. Like, that's so weird to me. Like, 100 people are watching me watch a podcast. You know, like, that's bizarre and super strange. But you know, what are you gonna do, I guess? Can we get an OnlyFans of you in your favorite leggings? Show some hands or feet, lol. Sure. I mean, if I don't have to take my clothes off, I mean, you know, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Well, sorry for being weird to you, /JK. You can be as weird as you want to me, as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind you saying whatever you want. I would rather you say what you think about me rather than think it. Because I'm a narcissist. You know, like, you have to understand. I love when people talk about me. I would prefer, instead of saying those things to me, I would honestly prefer if you said those things about me in other places. Like, if you're going to go into, like, the Majority Reports live chat and say, man, Andrea is super cool, she's hyper attractive, you got to go watch her show, and if y'all were to, like, do that, that would be great. Like, that's my whole thing, is I just want as many people to talk about me in good ways as possible. What if I took my headphones off? I could. I'm not listening to audio anymore. So I could. Whenever I take my headphones off, it reminds me of how loud I'm speaking, and that kind of makes me feel a little bit anxious. But, what are you going to do? 0 public embarrassment? You bet, Mr. Freak. You bet. Yeah. All right. I mean, maybe. Maybe 0. Maybe. Andrea is very wise and nice to dogs. That is true. My grandparents' dogs are very much so a fan of me. As you can see, this is where I got my headset. It's right on the microphone. Is that, like, causing a problem? Because look at me. I'm a gamer. Look at me, man. Hell yeah, man. I'm a gamer. Hell yeah. You know what you all need to do? Y'all need to start calling into the Majority Report. Like, that's what you need to do. Fuck using the chat room. Like, the chat room's great, right? I've got some allies in the chat room. But, like, y'all gotta call in and shout me out. You gotta say that, like, wow, there's, like, this amazing and beautiful and just, like, the super smartest person you've ever seen, and she streams 7 days a week. You gotta start calling into the Majority Report. Like, come on, man. And of course, you can't tell them I told you to do it, because then that makes me look like a weirdo. Then it's like, oh, wow, this person is begging, right? Like, look at me. I'm literally on my hands and knees. Maybe I would be if you paid me money, but I'm literally on my figurative hands and knees begging for you to promote me on other podcasts. So I'm going to delete this. This video is going to disappear. But that's what you definitely should do. And also call into bad faith as well, of course. Scoop, McConnell takes the win. Today, 2 Democratic senators publicly confirmed they will not vote to end the legislative filibuster. Are you joking? What a bunch of bullshit. Clip Andrea talking up Sam and spam the clips to him. There you go. There you go. But yeah, again, my regular show will be in about 12 and a half hours. So, unless y'all have anything else you want to ask, I mean, I think we're done here. Yeah, Mansion and Cinema would be the 2. I'd be shocked if it were anyone else. Cooking stream. I do have a show called Cooking with the Bitch. I haven't done an ep in a while. Maybe I should do more eps. As far as streaming goes, it's kind of hard to stream with my phone. I prefer doing videos because then I can edit them in a funny way, and I think that it cuts a lot of the downtime off, and I think I don't know, that's my preference. JL, $10. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. What am I going to spend all this money on? That's the thing, is y'all are giving me way too much money. And, like, again, I have made 3 times as much money in the month of January than I did in the month of December. And January is not even over yet. Like, and y'all are continuing to give me money, and the month's not even over yet. So it's very possible that January is going to be 4 times as moneyed as December, and that to me is a little bit overwhelming. But feel free to continue doing so. I would appreciate that. Get lamb instead of chicken, or alternatively, you could do neither of those things because eating meat is unhealthy and it's immoral. So you could do neither of those things in my preference. What can we say? We just love you. I mean, you should. You definitely should. Can we get a segment where you air embarrassing, damning videos? I should watch that entire press conference of him at the pool. I love kids jumping on my lap. I should air that. You want to watch that with me? How long is that? It's like probably like 10, 15 minutes or something. I love kids jumping on that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I should start getting people birthday presents. You know, probably get a birthday present or two. That video is so much cringe. Fucking Corn Pop had a chain. Like, he's just... I mean, he had a chain. He's a very bad dude. The fact that Corn Pop turned out to be a real person, I find that to be the most bizarre aspect of that. Corn Pop actually existed. Like, wow. Trump disappearing into the mist after the inauguration. Apparently he's made a statement. I haven't read it yet, though. I can help you spend it. I mean, you could. I think that that's very possible. I prefer Corn Pop to high fructose corn syrup, personally. Yeah, so, that's pretty much all I got. I gotta put my headset on so that I can get ready for the introductory experience. I'm so sorry, I'm holding the mic arm again. You know how there's the introductory experience? Is outroductory a word? I've never heard of it before. I'm gonna Google this. Outroductory. Is that a word? It's just auto-corrected to introductory. Is there really no outroductory? Well, then what is introductory? How is there an introductory without the outroductory? You joking? Unbelievable. I got hairy legs! Extraductory? It's just the outro? It can't just be outro. What? What? Well, fuck you, and then also fuck me. This is going to be the first outroductory experience. My goal, I now have a new goal in my life. By the time I die, I want the word outroductory to be in the dictionary. I hope you will join me with this crusade. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Honestly, Sam, if I could just get the sentence out. We can talk about Jimmy Dore can go and kill 15 kids tomorrow, and I still believe in force the vote.
Holdouts. Let's say there's 10 of them. Okay, they vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Well, it has to be less than that because the majority vote for Hakeem.
Than McCarthy for Kevin McCarthy to be speaker, or a large number would have to abstain altogether.
Yes, or abstain under your scenario.
Dumb people, liberal people.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
They're not accountable to anyone.
All of a sudden we can't talk about Neanderthal DNA anymore.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. But you have to go home now. 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 We have to have peace. But you have to go home now. 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 We have to have peace. People, we have to have law and order. We have to respect our great. But you have to go home now.